we go. This is us going live, sort of, in 30 seconds. Checking one more connection. Okay, here we go. Anti-cat device, aka door, is all set up. And away we go. Hi. How's it going, chat room? Welcome. Good morning. Willkommen. Hello. Wherever you may be. Good morning. Good afternoon, good day, good evening. Welcome to the House Parks Radio program, Mega Worldwide. We got about a minute before the show will actually fully start. Johnny Million's in studio. We've got Lady B running the board today. And hi, chat room. Good morning. Right out of the gate, EO's trying to just make yellow snow cones out of the fresh snowfall that just happened. I don't know, burst bubbles, but I don't really call it a cave. Really? Okay, audio's low. Sorry, I'll bring it up 1 second. Is that better? Let's see. And I'll also see if I can bring up the source a little bit. Thank you for the heads up. Mm-hmm. This may be because, yeah, we'll get it going. Let's see. Okay.
20 seconds.
Excellent. Check one. Is that a little better, chat room, volume-wise? Checking my business. The weird thing is that somewhere I will deafen before the software will. That's the tough part.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Live exclusively for WCPT in Chicago, standing up and speaking out, here's Hal Sparks.
Welcome to the show, everybody. So, I've been thinking about it, and I think we should just call off the show today since there's no news. You know what I mean? In the last 48 hours, it's really been kind of dead around here. So, no real changes in the game, no real advances made forward, no situations where the entire country took...
No, we're good. I almost didn't come in. I was just like, I don't know. It's kind of same old.
Just put a pin in it. Why not start the show with a little low-level sarcasm? 24 hours ago, the country took one big step forward and 2 steps back. The end of the completely optional, functionally useless, and unnecessarily painful government shutdown ended with the president walking out to the Rose Garden, babbling for about 20 minutes, and then lurching his way back to the White House like a pickup artist who'd just been shot down because he had a cold sore. Did you see the way he walked away from the mic without taking questions? It
was pretty awesome. I'm mad. Let's talk about Schadenfreude. Is that it? Schadenfreude? Freud?
Farfignugan?
Farfignugan, you know, where it's the kind of thing where I forget to ask if somebody's okay when they fall down.
That's right. That's Farfignugan, and I think that's weird that Volkswagen would take it. No, Schadenfreude is like when somebody, you get to see somebody faceplant based on arrogance, essentially. You know, that they're like, rakes, what am I worried about? Shwhack, you know, that kind of moment. And yes, this absolutely qualifies. So I'm going to, right out of the gate, You guys need to hear this. And here's the thing. We'll talk about the unnecessary pain, and we'll talk about some of the president's just abject failure at making any kind of a deal. We will also talk today about the 20-page indictment against Roger Stone that came out on the same day. And curiously enough, so yesterday morning, there's a pre-dawn raid.
You know how he has a Nixon tattoo?
Unfortunately, yes, I'm aware.
You know Roger Stone has a Nixon tattoo?
Yeah.
Apparently he got another tattoo that's Chinese, and he thought it said, "I'm not a crook," but it actually said, "U.S. horrible person."
What? Is that a joke or?
No, I just made that up.
Oh, good. Okay, I'm like,
that's a joke.
I was okay. U.S. horrible person. Well, it qualifies, I suppose. See, the problem is I speak Chinese and I can read enough that I would know that was not correct. So I was.
As soon as I went with Chinese, I was like, I really should have just.
You should have said Russian. You should have said Russian, and it would have been a more solid joke.
Dude,
I'm just saying.
There's the joke right there.
As a professional, I'm trying to help you out. And by the way, thank you, Hal Vickery, for the donation, the super chat right out of the gate for 666 to help us buy $6.66. To help us buy 666 Fifth Avenue. From the Kushner Foundation or whatever, Kushner organization. I don't think they can own a foundation anymore. I think they have no foundation. But and I know what everybody's thinking. Hal, you couldn't possibly afford to buy 666 Fifth Avenue. And my answer will always be, neither could Jared, and it never stopped him. So yesterday morning, we have another one of those Manafort no-knock warrants where they actually knocked. They show up with flashlights, 20 cars. FBI, open the door. And the story goes out, the right-wing media is going crazy because CNN was tipped off and they were there. Never mind the fact that CNN has been following Manafort or Stone, basically waiting for this moment because of these.
Yeah, they've been staking him out forever.
Yeah.
Who tipped CNN? The poor clown who was assigned to watch his every move.
Yeah, exactly. The guy whose job it is to like drink stale coffee and sit in a car during a shutdown for a month because a month ago, his name came up in the docket basically in the same way that everybody else who'd been busted. They were starting to see a pattern of who gets snatched up and when. And they were like, it's going to happen sometime in the next 3 to 5 weeks. And if the idea is like, Mueller's, this whole story we heard before, at the beginning of December, Mueller's going to shut this thing down soon. His report will be out of time now. And if you even believe a shred of that, you know that it's not going to happen before they at least question Roger Stone. And Roger Stone, the way he talks is like, I'm not going to talk. So the only leverage you have is an indictment or / subpoena situation. So it had to come in one of those forms. So it was either he was going to be served with a subpoena and brought in by Mueller's office, and sort of like they enforced a subpoena on him, like, hey, you're going to come talk to us whether you want to or not, or they're actually going to indict him, which was more, obviously the case because they were circling the wagons around this dude, for months now. And so yesterday morning, it's still dark out, and the FBI rolls up with 20 vehicles and anti-tank weapons and a helicopter, and I guess Jack Reacher was there, and the entire Mission Impossible team, and the Thing from the Fantastic Four. They needed this to lock down. According to right-wing media, they had to, they overreacted horribly. To, why do they have to mistreat this poor guy? They could have just called him and he would have finished shredding whatever he was shredding and drove himself.
Right.
He'd have driven himself, right? As soon as he finished erasing, bleaching hard drives, a technique he learned from his fantasy about Hillary Clinton, he would have, followed his, QAnon survival pack and, read the last fortune cookie, got in the car and drove over. And they didn't need to send all these guys over. And you know how the right wing hates it when the police overreact to someone who's unarmed. And it's no surprise they were specifically, an issue, this was special to Roger Stone. They are mistreating Roger Stone specifically. And about 3 hours after that, the president is in the Rose Garden on the lawn giving an impromptu "I've decided to reopen the government" speech. Coincidentally, timed almost exactly as best they could with Stone paying his bond and leaving the courthouse. Basically eating screen time. And by the way, eating, and it's a little hard to eat screen time when your competition is Roger Stone and you are Donald Trump bemoaning, congratulating yourself on nearly ruining the country. And the opening of this is the most stunning. I know this is supposed to be some sort of art of the deal strategy that he's trying to do. Stone's famous for saying, deny everything. And it's better to be talked about than not talked about, or it's the only thing worse than being talked about is not being talked about, which I think is a line he stole from Blackadder poorly. Truly. But Trump walks out, and understand, Trump signed the same deal that passed the House and Senate in December. The one he shut down the government over and said he would not be moved on. Okay, this is not a variation thereof. There was not a comma changed in this.
And the same ding-dongs who hated him before hate him now.
Right. And so, needless to say...
Ann Coulter and all that.
Exactly. Yeah. So, we'll get to that too, because you'll be in charge of reading the Ann Coulter tweets, because you do a better Ann Coulter than I do. Mainly because I don't do a good Ann Coulter, and you're taller. Okay, so here we come.
And I mean...
That's true. That's true. You're skinny and tall, and that's what, Anyways, this is Trump showing us all what the art of the deal looks like. This man's got skills.
Thank you very much, my fellow Americans. I am very proud to announce today that we have reached a deal to end the shutdown and reopen the federal government.
Okay, first of all, pause, stop, wait. No, he didn't. There was no deal. He simply caved.
He just gave up everything.
All he did was stop the argument he was making, and just fall apart. And the idea that he's like, I'm very proud to announce we've reached a deal. Why would you be proud of things going back to exactly the way they were before you screwed it up? Other than this is simply a giant face-saving charade.
That's all it is.
That's all this is. And we'll get to more of that. We got to take a break. We'll be back right after this. I'm going to play a little bit more of this nonsense.
We've got Nashville Carl on the other side.
We got Nashville Carl, who I'm sure had...
he might have a take.
Yeah, might have a take. I think so. We'll be back right after this. Tom, by the way, in the chat room says you're not blonde enough to play Ann Coulter. And your Adam's apple is too big or small.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. We'll be
small.
Back. Well. Oh, my God. EO, the federal workers didn't support them. Didn't support him in this. They didn't. He made that up. There were like, they found a spattering of like racist border agents and other randoms that would, but there was no majority of 800,000 federal workers and contractors who were furloughed during this time who Trump questioned it in a tweet. Okay, I'm backing up to look at the chat room. Was it Trump who questioned why CNN was there, or some right-wing nut? That was Hal Vickery. That was the first tweet I saw about it was Laura Ingraham, and then they started. This was the standard thought, and Trump tweeted it and kind of answered to that, like he was watching it, snorting Adderall and yelling at the TV. And is not a man, dude. I know, that's true. And I meant that Johnny Million's Adam's apple is too big. Like, my point is, you know, the trans jokes about and bug me. It's not fair to trans people. It's just not. It's like, yeah. Hey, Johnny Million playing in Kilter. Why the long face? I thought after we reached a deal, it was going to phrase to avoid impeachment. Right? No. That deal is definitely not coming. Why is he proud? Because he's gaslighting proud? Yeah. Let's see. Many D.C. federal workers are black. I think most Republicans think that most federal workers are black, so they didn't care how much they suffered. I certainly think there's a part of that. I mean, they have a hostility towards a functioning government anyways. That's one of the issues I have with sort of the libertarian wing of the Republican Party is, you know, again, why would you vote for someone who hates government? What makes you think they're going to run it well?
Coming back in 2 seconds.
2 seconds.
This is Tom Hartman, and you're listening to the Hal Sparks radio program, mega worldwide on Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT.
So the president comes out and pats himself on the back. I mean...
Thank you very much, my fellow Americans. I am very proud to announce today that we have reached a deal to end the shutdown and reopen the federal government.
Clappity clap, clap, clap.
Yeah.
As everyone knows, I have a very powerful alternative, but I didn't want to use it at this time.
No, he doesn't.
No, he doesn't.
No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't. Here's what's going to happen. And I tweeted this like it was Thursday, and there was this. Somebody had interviewed and asked him about something or whatever, and they're like, "Do you need a wall? Does the funding have to be there?" And he's like, "You know, we need a wall, but I have other options available to me." And blah. I'm like, "That's it, done." They've looked at the poll numbers. They've hit 32%. They're on their way to 30%. That, you know, between people who are contractors to federal government, to the federal government, who are Trump supporters, and farmers, between the two, they're like, they've had a bunch of, you know, they've had enough of it to some degree, and you can just see them gritting their teeth and getting through this. But once they hit paycheck round number 2, it was going to dip off, and they could see it coming. And the Republicans are screaming at Mitch McConnell, who is, you know, again, who is more foolish, the fool or the fool who follows him? In the situation when it comes to Mitch McConnell, Mitch is the guy who wouldn't bring the bills that would pass, and the ones that would have been veto-proof at 67 votes, wouldn't bring them to the floor. Because he knew Trump would be in a situation where they'd get over 60 votes, he would refuse to sign it, the bill would go back, they would get enough votes to, they override the veto. And it would be an embarrassment for the president and the party. And don't get me started on the $5.7 million that was shuffled through the Republican National Committee and people like Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell that we've talked about on the show from weird Russian sources and all that stuff that makes me think that they're as dirty as he is. That's why they're on board, not because, he gives us what we want, and therefore we'll hang with him until such time as we're ready to jettison him, right? So, anyways, this idea that he come out and like, we've reached a deal to take care of everything. I figured it out. Don't worry. I rode in on my white horse, and I had this great option. I could totally declare an emergency and claim all this land for military purposes and militarize the U.S. southern border. Now, I tweeted this yesterday, and Johnny, I don't know if you heard this or if you have a feeling. I
don't think I saw it.
But there is one way that Trump could militarize the southern border using, caravan-like stuff as an excuse. and legitimately take defense budget and use it to build a barrier. And that's by invading Venezuela. I'm not kidding. He could do it. Like, this is like, sending. We have just recognized the sort of in exile or secondary, the non-Maduro government down there. We do not recognize the current government of Venezuela. We're not the only ones who did it. Canada's done it too. But we jumped on that in the last couple of weeks, and rather quickly. It was sort of
we can take them.
Yeah. But it doesn't matter. The whole point is get down there, send in troops and former Blackwater people to basically stir up trouble and kill a bunch of people. And then the people who will be heading this way to A, escape it, or B, seek revenge, and you'll be able to argue, well, we don't know the difference between who's coming up. We need a physical barrier against an invading force. Will be an argument he will be able to fear make to the Republicans in the Senate. And all it will take is let a couple people through who do want revenge, because you would. If you perceive that if another country was invading your country and killing a bunch of people, especially if we send the Eric Prince crowd down, believe me, there will be somebody with a bone to pick with the United States heading north, and that's all they'll need to claim a military reason. Like I said, I don't want to give them any ideas, but I have my concerns. It's the only wag the dog available to the president. And do you think it's outside the John Boltons of the world?
Nothing is, apparently.
Right. Let's grab Nashville Carl, because I don't want to get too close to the break and have him not have time to talk. So, hey, Nashville Carl.
Line 2 is Nashville Carl.
Yay.
Hey guys,
Hi.
You know how if people are doubting what you're saying, I have 3 words for you: Homeland Security.
That's right.
Remember how we got Homeland Security? Oh, 9/11.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You remember Saudi Arabia? I mean, Iran attacked it. No, I mean Saudi Arabia.
I mean Iraq.
Us.
I mean Afghanistan.
Right. Yeah. Remember that?
And
so,
they've been talking.
So
he's been using the word.
Right.
He's been using the word invasion. I mean, for the last 2 months. Like that was a new choice. That was a word that worked its way into this argument only a couple of months ago.
And I tell you something else, something you said just a minute ago that I can't take credit for, but I will give credit where credit is due to my wife. My wife brought this theory up a year and a half ago. She said the reason why McConnell and Paul Ryan and those guys aren't on him about the Russian thing is because they have dirt on them too.
Oh yeah.
She was
Lindsey Graham.
This
Hello.
isn't being brought up enough at all.
No.
And now, as far as the shutdown, dude, I've been listening to, I called in and listened to, right-wing radio here in Tennessee. It's real deep right-wing radio.
Sure.
Is it like
Tennessee.
local? Is it homegrown right wing?
No, yeah, it is. Homegrown right-wing.
Nice.
And it's deep in that. How you're from Kentucky, right?
Oh, indeed. Yeah, I know it well.
Oh, indeed. So you understand.
I've been
East Tennessee
guests
as
on
good
some
as
of those
anybody
shows.
else.
I've been guests on some of those shows, like promoting stand-up gigs. But I know it. Yeah, go ahead.
It's crazy how these evil racists will do anything to twist themselves. And even when the host said, "Yep, he caved," everyone to a man that was a Trump supporter came in and said he wasn't caving. And I tell you, one of the nastiest things I've heard on right-wing radio, because you must listen to both sides. You must listen to how they think. You don't just listen to CNN, MSNBC, and right-wing left-wing talking. Now, you have to go into their bubble and really listen to these people.
Yeah, the argument they're making is stunning. And if you're going to refute it, if you're going to have an argument that actually is in contact with, you can't, otherwise you're just Trump yelling at a television set. You have to listen to how they're framing the argument to understand how to rebut it. Yeah, absolutely. So go ahead.
Yeah, and I tell you, another right-wing show I listened to earlier in the week, And this is why I call these people evil evangelical hypocrites. I'm not being funny. I'm not being cute. These people.
Well, you're also being funny and cute, but you're not just being funny and cute.
You can't help it. Sorry, you can't help it.
Very serious, dude.
Yeah, understood.
These are evil evangelical. Listen to what they were saying. One particular right-wing talk show here in Nashville. They had a whole segment. Matter of fact, a whole 2 or 3 segments of a pity party for government workers, and all these people were calling in, making fun of government workers being laid off and not working and having problems getting medication and being kicked out and about to lose their house. And these are and they get pissed at me when I call in and call them evil evangelical hypocrites.
Right.
Because if you're following Jesus Christ, I'm pretty sure Jesus Christ never called into a radio show and teasing about someone and making fun of someone losing their tent.
Well, let's go back to the fact that these are the people who were wearing purple Band-Aids to mock John Kerry's Purple Heart. You know, like that's. I mean, it doesn't stop there by any means.
Yeah, so amazing.
No, it don't. I mean, and if people think that Donald Trump is the start of this thing in the Republican Party,
no,
they're fooling themselves. This crap has been around for a long, long time. They have really masked themselves very well. They cover up. They use the cross and the American flag to cover up the Confederate flag that's wrapped around underneath. And until we start really pointing that out and not BSing ourselves, and I think we're starting to do it because you're starting to see people come out and comfortable with calling Donald Trump a racist and being okay with that. And you're not hearing this, because I used to hear this all the time, because I've been calling in right-wing radio for years, because for a long time it was the only radio to call into.
Right. And they keep trying to make it that way. They shut down. In L.A. they now have the Patriot, where Stephanie Miller and everybody used to be on. That was bought by Bain Capital and shut down. That network, that station loses money, which, because they have investors, is technically illegal if they knowingly program in a way that loses money repeatedly. But it is part of their propaganda network, and they would rather have that and keep their tax breaks. Honestly, that's the way they can argue it. Carl, we have to take a break because we're right at the 9:30 mark. Dude, I appreciate your call. We always love your take. Thanks for calling anytime. No problem, absolutely. We'll be back right after this. It's the Hal Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Hey, careful, man. There's a beverage here,
Since when has it been racist to be a racist? Right. Conservative propaganda is awful. Both Cider's Beltway media that legitimizes conservative propaganda is worse. Yeah, well, I mean, that Tulsi Gabbard nonsense last week, where she's just kind of like, well, both sides are to blame for this shutdown. Yuck. My cup is a Project Mercury cup with the NASA logo. Very sweet. Mine's simply from the Great Lakes Science Center. Because when I'm traveling and doing stand-up, as I am next week in Seattle, if you feel like coming down, I'm at the Bellevue Parlor Live next weekend, which means I will be at the rock and roll, they're sort of, I guess it's like whatever their big music museum, the Seattle Music Scene Museum thing that they have down there, and I'll be at the is it Powell Books, and there's a big comic book store there that I like to hit up. There's a couple of guitar places I like to hit, to go down to the fish and fruit market, the original Starbucks. I'll be at all those things, because when I go to a town, I try to experience the entire place in a way that even people who live there all the time don't get to. So yeah. Hey, Hal, it's my birthday, the big 30. Yes, good for you. Zelda, happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Zelda. Happy birthday to you. Cheers. I grew up in Nashville, never knowing any African Americans except my mother's maids, and I consider that to be such a deficiency in my upbringing. Yeah, I don't see the slightest sign that there's a serious Green Party that does anything but run some oddball spoiler candidate. You are correct, El Cid. I buy all my coffee cups on eBay. Little known Carl fact from our chat room. Now we know something about Carl that's really very specific and true. So yeah, everybody wish Zelda a happy birthday in there. It's hey, don't spill my beer, man. It's not a beer. He's got a it's a White Russian. He always drinks White Russians. I used to go see Hal at the Bellevue venue all the time. Oh, thank you, Seattle Susie Q. Yeah, don't miss the show. These are going to be good ones. I've written most of what would be the new special, and I'm going to finish working it out over the next month and a half, and then hopefully tape it end of March. And then that means I'll have 2 specials coming out in a row. So there you go. I'm off to my first rehearsal. Best Little House in Texas. We open 22nd of February here in Palm Springs. Rock on House. Right on, Charles. Have a great show. I loved that show when I was a kid. And I, largely because I think I saw it when I was 12, which is curious. Maybe 11? When was it? 1981 when it came out? I forget. But I was, I saw it in the theater, and I've always been a huge Dolly Parton fan. Always been a huge Burt Reynolds fan.
10 seconds.
Cool. Mm-hmm.
Now back to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide, 773-763-9278.
Welcome back to the show. So, obviously, this whole, gathering in the Rose Garden,
it will be unnecessary. I want to thank all of the incredible federal workers and their amazing families who have shown such extraordinary devotion in the face of this recent hardship.
Yeah. Like it was a hurricane. Like it was a tornado that no one saw coming. Like he didn't know that the longer he dragged this out, the more harm it would cause to federal workers. And I flew during this shutdown a few times. Now,
yeah, how'd that go?
Yeah, it was getting sketchy, quite frankly. I was in an unnamed airport that is normally one of these like transition airports that I fly through quite often, and it was a ghost town.
Wow.
It was and I was like, the rolling problems caused by the lack of business in this situation, because a bunch of folks, did not want to fly. They were, the news about air traffic controllers and, the dangers posed by a lot of them working without pay, and some TSA people not showing up. The news about that was starting to affect air travel in a major way. And what was normally anyways a downtime for the airlines was starting to get pretty scary. And the issue you had on a bunch of these was you'd have a bunch of half-empty planes running at an airport with fewer than the backup staff that they should have for their air traffic controllers, and then some planes completely packed because they were, to save money, they're canceling some flights and kind of squeezing them together, or offering fewer options, and that they had started to do that, and therefore, like, you'd see like 3 empty gates and 1 gate that looked like Christmas, like everybody was there and they'd been sleeping and waiting there, right? And this, like I said, if this had gone on for another couple of weeks, it was starting to get where there's a genuine thought this could be dangerous. And that was stopping people from flying. There's no question about it. And that means there are people who aren't seeing their family and going out to dinner and all that ancillary business that isn't being done. And, gifts and hangouts and all that kind of stuff. And the idea is that it will snap back if it's, if it's fixed or whatever. But that's not necessarily the case. Sometimes you have a scheduled window and that window is gone. A lot of people, they have the Christmas break with school and whatnot. And then a couple of weeks after Christmas, or a week or so of Christmas where they either have no school or school is a little more sporadic. I know my son's school has, like, the first couple of weeks of January, they have, like, 3 school days a couple of the weeks, And that's when people are like, oh, well, I'll go. I didn't get to see them over the holidays, so that'll be the weekend we'll go visit so-and-so, right? And, or, we'll get away that weekend because the kids don't have school then and we don't have the family around. We'll go do something. They didn't do that. Whatever percentage of human beings in this country that would do that, they weren't doing it. And it was super abundantly clear when traveling. Like for a guy like me who tours, I'm like, wow, it sure was easy to get a rental car when it normally isn't at this over the weekend. It was certainly easy to get, accommodations in certain places that I know are often packed. It's so funny I have to talk around where I am, but it's true.
I'll find you.
Yeah.
You think you can
That's
hide.
what I'm worried about. That's why I'm talking like this. That's my biggest concern. You of all people.
I know.
But Trump coming out and going, this most recent hardship, thanks, guys. So
You are fantastic people. You are incredible patriots. Many of you have suffered far greater than anyone but your families would know or understand.
he's just
There's nothing to say.
Nothing. Because he doesn't care. He's just like, fantastic people. These are the people who are they're such, people. They're genuine people. These are, all right.
And not only did you not complain.
Okay, first of all, they were arrested at Mitch McConnell's office. Like, people were not just complaining, they were protesting. Not only did you not complain. Who is he talking? I mean, and there's a bunch of staff members standing out there in the Rose Garden. They ran a pile of them out there to start like, oh, yes. And they...
But in many cases, you encouraged me to keep going because you care so much about our country and about its border security.
Yeah, enough about...
In many ways.
Yeah, in many ways. You, and by you, I mean... Steve Miller and no one else on my staff who were all like, I think I'm just saying the Jolly Ranchers tasted a little funny. It just, someone clearly unwrapped them, did something and rewrapped them. I'm not saying who. Oh, and by the way, again with the sniffing. Listen.
Security. Again, I thank you. All Americans, I thank you. You are very, very special people.
You are very, very people. Dude, fix that. I mean, we all have, all like Adderall and Diet Coke jokes aside, all deviated septum from snorting ADD drugs aside. At some point, somebody is tapping you on the shoulder and going, just when you're going to breathe in, lay off the mic. Like a producer, Mark Burnett should have told him this during the filming of The Apprentice. When I did,
it may not have been as bad back then.
That's true. It could have gotten worse. But even still, somebody can go, Mr. President, when you take a breath, just lean back from the microphone because it picks it up because it's a high sibilance microphone. You could lie, tell them something. You know what I mean? Give them some face-saving room to do it. Or when I forget what word it was. I want to say it was like amazing or something. But when I was doing Treasure Mall, the kids' game show I hosted while I was still in high school, right? Remember, I
remember Treasure Mall very well.
Yeah, so I would fly to L.A. and do that and come back. This guy, Peter Berlin, who I love dearly, was one of the producers of it. And he was the guy kind of in charge of teaching me how to be a game show host. And here was this, young stand-up comedian who had this, first TV job, first hosting television job. And I had some tics and habits that were born out of insecurity and not knowing what the job was yet.
Like that thing where, like, you would pull your pants down just below your butt?
No, that was you. Remember? You always... you project those on.
But that was like it was a play version of
normal.
the show in my basement. I didn't
normal.
think it mattered what I did.
It did matter. The rest of the guys and I were very upset. And
the
guys in seismograph were all mad that you kept pulling your pants down and going, "Look, I'm Hal on Treasure Mall." Like,
look
I remember,
at me, I'm a
yeah, that's right. So, but I kept saying, when I was responding to the mock contestants we had or whatever, I think I kept saying the word "amazing" a lot. You know what I mean? Like, "Oh, that's amazing! Hey, it's amazing!" or whatever. He got a bell. He went out and bought a ding. He bought a bell, right? And every time I would say it, he would ring the bell so it was annoying, and it worked. You know what I mean? It's not your fault. Most people don't know the tics and exaggerations they have, especially in a performance situation where they've never been. New stand-ups do it. It's just a habit. Musicians do it.
You have no idea what your verbal interrupters are until you put yourself out on that platform.
And somebody will help you with it, right? If you're good, you have a coach, and if you don't, you're stuck with them. Should be fixed. Somebody in the White House, that's a problem. It's embarrassing, and he looks like a drug addict, and all the stories about him snorting Adderall gain ground every time he goes in between words, and he does it when he knows he's lying. I mean, there are times when he's lying and he doesn't care, but I think he does it when he knows other people know he's lying. You know what I mean? Like right. That seems to be the stick out point, when he knows they're catching him. Like, what I'm about to say is complete horse crap, and everybody knows it. Yeah. So
I am so proud that you are citizens of our country.
I'm so proud that you were able to smuggle this over the border. I'm so proud that you are citizens of this country. Like, he can't not slam immigrants. You know what I mean? Like, what a weird...
When I say make America great again, it could never be done without you.
Oh, my God.
I mean, without brown people.
Right.
I think he got it in his head that every time he struggled, the only thing that worked, aside from lock her up, was build the wall.
Well, allegedly it was a phrase that was just there to teach him, to remind him to slam immigrants because the base liked it. And
supposedly Roger Stone taught him that, too.
Was it Roger?
Yeah, that's what they're saying. As a political advisor, he was the one who helped him drive home the little catchphrases.
Nice segue, John, because we got to take a break right now. When we come back, 23-page indictment
against every syllable.
Roger, I am not a crook. You could tell because the kind of people that would have a tattoo on their back of me are the cleanest, most intelligent, most forthright, and honest human beings in the world.
We have one call waiting.
Excellent. We'll be back right after this. It's the Hal Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide. We're streaming on YouTube right now, as I tweeted out. Follow at Hal Sparks and at JMillion on Twitter. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Give the show a thumbs up. Really helps us out. And
I'm eating nuts and raisins.
Oh, thank God you said raisins. We'll be back. It's the Hal Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide. Let's see. I'm just tweeting to Johnny. So sorry, I'm gonna roll back into the chat. So okay, do we really have to listen to that voice? Unfortunately. At least my sniffing is a lifelong post-nasal drip. How do you have lifelong post-nasal drip? I would see someone about that. Acupuncture, maybe? I don't know. From Trump's friends, family, cabinet's perspective, the paycheck-dependent people are the swamp. We misunderstood and thought the swamp consisted of those hurting the USA. There's an argument there, Jennifer. I think the idea is that the swamp is people who, we think of alligators, meaning the Wilbur Rosses of the world, and I think they think of leeches. One of the other things you think of when you talk about wading through a swamp is leeches. That's one of the bigger, scarier things, right? I think you're right. I think that's what they view those people as. I think they view anybody who works for the federal government as a leech. And I think some of them, considering the way they behave, includes veterans and former FBI and marshals and police. Susmita, who are you talking to? Susmita, I'm talking to the chat room, and I'm also talking to my buddy Johnny Million in Chicago, who's at the studio there. Anyone know how to refresh the thumbs up count? Mine still shows 6 from 9. Yeah, you want to refresh the thumbs up count? Everybody give the show a thumbs up right now. Everybody in the chat room, please give us a thumbs up. It would really help.
3 seconds.
Excellent.
Now back to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide, 773-763-9278.
Yeah, all you Twitter followers out there at Hal Sparks, don't forget to retweet the show's time and all that kind of stuff. I just put a tweet up a few moments ago. I will untweet and retweet it again so that you guys can send it out to all your friends. Help us grow the show. Appreciate it. This I'm not going to play much more of this. I mean, because I just can't take it anymore. The baloney in in the Rose Garden.
It's really hard for me. I mean, it's newsworthy. I get it, but it's really hard for me to ever hear him talk.
Yeah. Okay. So, we'll get around that because at least Lady B likes my impersonation of him, and that's a little more tolerable. So,
yes, and then I get to watch Lady B laugh.
Right, which is always a good thing in the world.
The best.
Right. Okay. So, needless to say, this week was horrifying for somebody whose brand is the art of the deal. Right. This is. I mean, if that's been your whole sales pitch, I don't care how xenophobic and racist your hardcore followers are. They still have to deal with the fact that you suck at deal making. You completely blew it.
You can't say when someone if someone's getting bad deals and somebody else says that they're a deal maker, you can't blame the other party.
Right.
You can't say, but the Democrats, because no, he should be able to make a deal with anybody.
That's right.
He's a deal maker.
Yeah, that's right. He's got the magic, recipe for all this. He wrote a book through another person that never typed a word and
who really hates him,
who really, really despises him, called The Art of the Deal. Because okay, so. Have you ever read the
that guy goes on the talking head shows. He's like, yeah, I predict that Trump is going to stick his head in a fire escape and get stuck. Like, he just got all these, like, the lowest bar he sets for the next bad thing to happen to him. He's going to put his hand in between a bit of drywall and a 2x4 and grab a bunch of pennies and then not be able to put them down because he won't know to not make a fist.
Right, that's right. Like, give him a jar full of cookies. The idea, and he can't get his hand out. So this is, have you ever read Art of the Deal?
No.
Okay. Because I've read it, and I've read.
Oh my God.
Yeah. No. I've read almost everything. Like, if it, especially during like the 80s and 90s, I basically read every kind of, business book, like how to get ahead. Motivation. Like I read Dianetics when we were still in high school before Scientology got kicked off.
I have no idea how you read Dianetics.
I just read it, and I was like, okay, yeah, all right. And the annoying thing about Dianetics is, and anybody who's ever read the book, is the first 3 chapters is L. Ron Hubbard quoting like sort of semi-new but not quite verified brain science stuff mixed with some kind of junk psychology, and then quoting the book the rest of the quoting those 3 chapters the rest of the time, which is the sign of a bad author. Like I said in chapter 2, like that's, if your reference is you 10 minutes ago, you're a jerk. So that that's always been the problem with it for me. But I read the book, and you can take whatever every book has a couple of sentences, and the guy who actually wrote Art of the Deal, who hates Trump and is a decent human being, did his best at certain points to try and sift through all the nonsense he was getting from Trump and come up with some good points. The problem was most of what he was dealing with was this is just rich boy talk. This is just a second-generation rich kid who couldn't get any of these people on the phone if his dad hadn't already built this thing for him. It's not about smarts. It's not about anything. And the rest of it is all flim-flam. There's nothing to this that's meaningful. And as he said, I think he was on AM Joy this morning, he's like, there's most of the deals he talks about in Art of the Deal didn't work out. The casinos, all the stuff he's talking about in it, are ridiculous. Like, they failed miserably, right? But anyways, so this is just for you and for Lady B. This is page 1
all right, okay,
of Art of the Deal. I don't do it for the money. I've got enough, much more than I'll ever need. Okay, he was nearly broke when this happened. Let's be abundantly clear. I do it to do it. Which sounds like a line from Mel Brooks in History of the World Part 1.
Yeah.
I love to do it. I just did it and I'd do it again. It's good to be the king, right? Deals are my art form.
Stooped and I'm ready to stoop again.
That's right. Deals are my art form. Other people paint beautifully on canvas or write wonderful poetry. Okay, Trump couldn't spot good art if he was told the price tag and how important it was. He's like, yeah, but I'm not in it. So, and wonderful poetry. Words he doesn't understand. You know what I mean? I like making deals, preferably big deals. That's how I get my kicks.
Oh, my God.
That's how I get my kicks.
You can't even hold your impression.
I can't do it. It's ridiculous.
It's that bad.
It's ridiculous. That's how I get my kicks. Like he's picturing himself in a fedora hanging around with Sinatra. That's how I get my kicks, boo-boo. Most people are surprised by the way I work. No, most people are surprised you work at all. I play it very loose. I don't carry a briefcase. What? I try not to schedule too many meetings because I lose track and wander into another room. I leave my door. I leave my door open so I can watch my secretary walk by. Apparently, you can't be imaginative or entrepreneurial if you've got too much structure. How did we? Yeah, I prefer to come to work each day and just see what develops. What? There is
nice work if you can get it.
Yeah, there is no typical week in my life. I wake up most mornings very early, around 6, and spend the first hour or so of each day reading the morning newspapers. Not
true. He would
true.
almost be good phone support. Like, that's the kind of job he's looking for. Like, he could work for Comcast.
Thank you for calling Geek Squad. I'm I'm a professional at technology. Have you tried throwing it in the river? I have a friend who lives on the 22nd floor of my building. That's what he does when he has a problem with something. He wraps it in canvas, duct tapes its mouth, and throws it in the river. Have you tried that?
Oh, my God.
There's rarely a day with fewer than 50 calls. Like, this is a horrifying, how everybody on this guy's phone sheet must be like, oh, God, this guy. And that's how they work out, by the way. Half the people don't return his calls. The other half have to because they're his lawyer. The book is literally, the first chapter is his day of phone calls. Like, 2 o'clock, I make this phone call. 2 o'clock p.m. And this is like by hour, maybe, 3 o'clock, 3:15. Okay. I get deposed in a lawsuit we brought against a contractor on Trump Tower. This is, we're 7 pages into his book on how to make a deal. He's already being deposed for a lawsuit where he hasn't paid someone.
Oh my God.
Halfway into the job, we had to fire the company for total incompetence, and we're suing for damages. I hate lawsuits and depositions.
Oh, yeah.
But the fact is, if you're right, you got to take a stand or people will walk all over you. In any case, there's no way I could avoid depositions.
Like the way he settled for Trump University.
Right.
$25 million.
Exactly.
He was right.
Even if I never brought a lawsuit myself. Nowadays, if your name is Donald Trump, everyone in the world seems to want to sue you. That was his lunch hour. That's 2 o'clock. By the way, I think he has lunch. 3 o'clock, I asked Norma Ferrardahar, my executive assistant and the person who keeps my life organized, to bring me lunch. A can of tomato juice.
Oh, my God.
I can't do it.
Oh, my God.
A can of tomato juice.
Like he just saw something on a magazine. It's like,
Right.
hey, what do I have for lunch? A can of
tomatoes are supposed to be good for you. I'm doing nothing but tomato juice now. I'm on the tomato juice diet. I rarely go out because mostly it's a waste of time. I got to take a break. We'll get to the caller after the top. I'm literally crying. I'm laughing.
Mostly it's a waste of time.
I never go out because no one wants to have lunch with me, is the truth. But it's a waste of time. I don't even like the food anyways. Just bring me my can of tomato soup. I don't need people. I leave my door open because I have no friends. If I didn't leave my door open, no one would talk to me. I call people nonstop. We'll be back. It's the House Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide. I'm dying. I'm dying. Oh my God. It's one of the funniest books I've ever read. I'm pretty sure Charlie Goldstein is from the Bronx, but he's a very pompous guy, and he has a tendency to act like royalty, so I call him Sir Charles. I have nicknames for everybody I mess with. Oh my God, I'm dying. It's all that pent-up angst from the last 2 years. Yeah. Did you ever hear that he told NASA he wants to go to Mars by 2020? The man is insane. Yes. Hal, Johnny, remember us, the show? Yeah, I'm trying. I'm getting back. Hal's finally reached the breaking point. Yeah, it's correct. I'm reading from Art of the Deal, Mark. That is literally from Art of the Deal. Oh, God. Whew. That's so... All right. Yeah, I was trying to hold it together. Bless your hearts. I appreciate it. Can you get you a towel with a NASA logo? That would be really helpful. I know my face is red. I'm friggin' laughing and crying. Oh my God. In 3:30, an hour after the deposition call, I call my sister Mary Ann Barry to discuss a recent decision in a lawsuit. We are contesting in Atlantic City. Mary Ann is a federal court judge in New Jersey, and her husband John is a talented attorney I have used on many occasions. Can you believe they ruled against us? I asked her. Mary Ann is very smart. She obviously knows a lot more about law than I do. And she's as surprised as I am. I tell her that I've arranged to have all the materials from the case sent to John immediately because I want him to handle the appeal. Like, he literally, by page 9, he's lost a court case. He's being... Oh, my God. This is just... I should just do the... Like, I could do a show entirely on YouTube where chapter by chapter I just read Art of the Deal, and it would be like, he'd probably sue me, which would be worth it. Sorry if you're getting buffering. I'll check. Is that on my end? Are we getting any? What's the signal like on there? Let's see. No, okay. Oh, God. I'm sorry, guys. I was laughing so hard. I was falling apart. Thanks for sticking with me. You can't handle the Art of the Deal. It's too much. I have also written the funniest... This reminds me of when Hal reviewed Left Behind movie series. Oh, my God. That was so fun. Hey. When Kirk Cameron walks over to the UN soldier who is gunning down starving people for stealing food out of an abandoned truck, because that's what they do, because they're the devil's foot soldiers, the UN. And Kirk Cameron stops them by touching them on the shoulder, going, "Hey." Yeah. Yeah, I'm getting buffering too from YouTube. It just kind of bumps up against that, but it's not. Let's see. Let's see. We've got 0 frames dropped. Key bips are going. Make sure my network situation is okay. Audio's good to Chicago, so hopefully that's not messing up. Yeah.
16 seconds.
Okay. Thank you.
Johnny had to get coffee for me because I left my asthma pump.
Oh,
I'm
no.
laughing so hard.
Oh, my Lord. Oh, God. I almost killed Lady B.
He's dying.
It's just wrong. Oh.
You're listening.
He was killing me.
Oh, no.
I gotta stop.
Oh.
About it. Me before, but not when I was being so charming. Video streaming at housesparks.com.
I don't care for you or for the putrid sludge you're troweling out.
Damn puss-faced little pimpstick.
True progressive talk.
Might be a good time for you guys to give up.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we needed that break just to recover. We're all right. You had to go get coffee for Lady B, Johnny? Did he leave the room? He went to go do that? You okay? Yeah.
Yeah, he had to leave the room.
Oh, God. Because, again, like, believe your sycophantic nonsense that you want about Trump, you know, and that he's, you know, here to save us from the UN and the, you know, this QAnon conspiracy that if not for him, I mean, there's literally an online conspiracy that the Trumps are time travelers and that Donald Trump had a vision that we were going to be there was going to be a nuclear war if Hillary Clinton was elected, and therefore he had to run for office, and no matter what he does, it's still saving us from nuclear war. I'm not kidding. Like, that's a major theory online. Talk about Nashville Carl, like, listening to right-wing radio to understand what the conversation is. That's true to some degree. You'll find out kind of what what the strategy is, because there is none, but what their defense of the strategy is. But You go to the remnants, you know, especially on YouTube and hunt around. Whoo! Oh, you're in for a good laugh. So, anyways, the and chat room, I'm hoping we're all good with the stream. I appreciate everybody for joining us in there as well, and I think we're getting some buffering. I think I was laughing too hard to. So we're gonna get a call in a minute as soon as Johnny's back in. If he's gone to get medical assistance. But Roger Stone, the reason we made a deal yesterday, the reason the deal was made, which was not a deal. All news outlets within the sound of my voice, all of them. You guys. Oh, I guess I am a little bit hot going to Chicago. Thank you for that heads up. Well, I can't do that because then it'll lose some of our. Maybe it's that one. Maybe it bring down. There you go. Hopefully that's a little bit better. And it might just be that I'm just laughing too loud or I'm too exuberant right now. It's entirely possible. But I have.
Sorry, it's not ending.
Oh no, it is not. So
no, tomato juice.
I know.
Holy moly.
It's true. That is true.
I don't go out mostly because it's a waste
of time. I just sit here eating my can of tomatoes.
People all seem to be talking to each other and enjoying their company.
People walk by my door and point. I leave it.
I'm sorry, Paul. We still have one call on, but Paul had to drop. I hope it wasn't because we were wasting time.
Oh, it's entirely possible. Oh my God.
Holy moly.
Whew. Oh, good Lord. So. And by the way, during the break, I read a little piece from 3:30, page 9. I called my sister Marianne Barry to discuss a recent decision in a lawsuit we are contesting in Atlantic City, home of the massive fail, by the way. Marianne is a federal court judge in New Jersey, and her husband John is a talented attorney I have used on many occasions. I'm guessing he's admitting in that moment accidentally that he uses a federal judge as well. Wait, listen. Can you believe they ruled against us? I asked her. Marianne is very smart. She obviously knows a lot more about the law than I do, and she's as surprised as I am. I tell her that I've arranged to have all the materials from the case sent to John immediately because I want him to handle the appeal. Oh my God, we're only on page 9, and he's been deposed in a lawsuit where he didn't pay a contractor, and he's lost another lawsuit in Atlantic City. This is 2 pages. All right, so Roger Stone. So Roger Stone is... gets the Manafort treatment yesterday morning. There was a sealed indictment Thursday saying, "Hey, don't release the information from this indictment until until we snatch this dude up." This is it's too. Hold on, I'm checking my output settings 1 second because I want to make sure we're okay on the stream. Anyways, so he does this, Mueller's team says don't release the information on this until such time as we can, until we get him, basically, because this dude's gonna shred stuff. Yep. Is essentially their concern more than anything else. This, and this is the problem they had with Manafort. It's like, we need to get this guy's stuff. Don't, sorry. And I apologize about the buffering. I'll fix that during the next break. We got in about 2 minutes, guys. I apologize about that. I don't know quite what's up with that. But I appreciate it.
You got a Battlestar Galactica vibe about you.
Do I? Okay, so it must
a little bit. Every now and then you sound like a Cylon.
Okay, and I for some reason my mic is super hot going your way as well. So I'm gonna I think
it sounds better now.
I think the cats stepped on my controls. You know what I mean? Like I've come into my office recently, and someone has been trying to log into my computer with a paw because it's clearly, if you have to enter a code to get into your computer and you notice that there's like 100 things and you're like, oh, I accidentally set something down on the keyboard and it just got tired of going doom, 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 right? That happened. So I'm going to guess that that occurred as well. So I'll fix that as well during the break. But we have the 26-page, is it? I don't know, I printed out. It doesn't quite matter. 24-page indictment against Roger Stone. They snatch him up. They make sure that he can't get, basically that he won't start shredding stuff and throwing it out. Now, Roger Stone has said repeatedly that he's expecting to be indicted. We've heard this a couple of times from people, that Roger's been talking recently and saying, I expect to be indicted any day now. Which means if there's shredding going on, I'm going to bet that it's already happened. The problem is, I think Mueller's team already has everything. At this point, they are not pulling anybody in to really, like, even questioning them, it seems, until such time as they have all the corroborating emails and text messages, and then they just sit there and they go, what'd you say to this guy? What did you tell him? And then the person will lie, and they'll go, that's okay. That's interesting. So you never mentioned this. No, I never mentioned that. Is there any reason you would mention that? No, I would never even bring that up. Why would I even talk about that? It's such a ridiculous topic. Well, then perhaps this will refresh your memory. Oh, that's from the other guy. He said something to me, and I was just replying to that order. Well, what about this one that you sent to him the day after? Oh, that. I'm going to need to talk to my lawyer for a minute.
I forgot to delete.
Yeah. Oh, wait. Before you talk to your lawyer, how about this one, and this one, and this one, and this one? What about this text message? And what about this back and forth between you and them? Can you explain that? I got to talk to my attorney. Okay, well, go talk to your attorney, and we'll just sit right here. By the way, you don't get to leave the building. Because you just lied to us twice, and you got to hang out until we figure this out. That's it. So, anyways, we're gonna take a break. When we come back, there will be less buffering on the YouTube. I'm hoping I will fix that, and I think we'll take a caller if they're still there.
Yeah, we got a couple back.
Great. Okay, cool. And then I want to read a couple of finer points from the indictment that I think were missed, that are, nearly as funny as Art of the Deal, but not quite. We'll be back. It's the Hal Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk. All the way up in this, and it doesn't seem to be affecting that. So it's got to be my aux send, perhaps? We just bring the aux send down a bit so that it's not hot. Check, 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 check. Hey, check, check. No, it's still going hot. I don't understand that. I'll bring it down on the app. Maybe that's what's going on. Check 1, check 2. Yeah, I don't know why it would spike if there we go. That's a little better. All right. Hopefully that helps, Chicago, because I'm going robotic on that section. I'll bring the main down on here. Hopefully that fixes that. And then I'm going to fix one thing. Here we go. See, hopefully that brings us up a little bit. I don't know why we're at such a low strata right now of streaming quality. Okay. I don't even know what the heck that was. All right. I'm restarting it. I don't know. I'm restarting on my end. And output isn't terrible on this end. We're still maintaining.
I'm Dick Kay from Back on the Beat, and here is the Mega Worldwide Radio Program with Hal Sparks.
Welcome back. So who do we have on the line there, Johnny?
We have Kurt from Cali on line 1.
Excellent. Hey, Kurt, welcome.
Hey, what's up? This is the Million Sparks Show once again.
That's right.
Before I get to my main point, I just got to tell you, do you guys remember Dean Martin and Jerry Lewis?
Oh, yeah. Indeed. Yeah.
Bob Hope and Bing Crosby.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Laurel and Hardy.
Yep.
Abbott and Costello.
I feel some flattery coming, and I condone it.
Hey, well, no, I'm going to tell you guys right now, when you guys are together, it is a whole different animal.
Thank you.
You guys really
I agree,
think
Johnny.
about
Thanks, man.
filling up another hour or shift or something maybe on a Sunday or something, if it's not too much, for one day. But when you guys are together, man, when the off the cuff stuff you guys say is just hilarious.
It definitely helps.
You're cracking up.
Thank you. Yes, it helps as a springboard for me to have Johnny on. And I've tried over the years to talk him into coming every week, but he's in demand. He's an in demand kind of a guy, and the schlubs of the world like me, we can show up every week. But for some reason, I don't know. I've talked to his
agent. Some of us are too important.
Yeah, we are now touring in separate buses, and we do all of our talking through intermediaries. It is Van Halen circa 2004, and it's okay. You know what I mean? As long as the fans get the show they want. But go ahead. So please continue in your love of the show, but also what you wanted to mention as well.
Well, what I wanted to say is that I got something that's going to put this whole shutdown to rest, okay? But first, I want to ask, do you guys remember Alan Grayson?
Of course. I follow his wife on Twitter, Gina Grayson. I would follow her on Twitter. She's good people, just so you know. But go ahead, yes.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Well, I love Alan Grayson, and one of the reasons why I love Alan Grayson so much was because, do you remember back when the Affordable Care Act was first on the table back in 2010?
Alan came out on the floor.
Yes. Yeah. Well, no, the full thing was, it was the GOP plan was to the first step was don't get sick. That was step one.
Yes, right.
But if you do get sick, die quickly.
That's right.
Okay? But the way he presented it on the floor of the Congress with a big giant easel and a big old giant 24-inch by 24-inch whiteboard with big giant letters, when he did that, he was able to, just really establish how the Republican Party was trying to fool everybody, and we were able to just get past that and define that moment and move ahead and get that passed.
Yes.
Now, what I'm trying to understand right now is, has there been a gag order put on Congress since then? Because what I don't understand for the life of me is right now we have a country in crisis because we have a president that is trying to claim that there's so many drugs coming through the southern border that this wall is a must because of all the drugs. But guess what, though? I wish somebody would go on the floor of the House with a big giant easel and say, in 2014, a senator's wife's family's boat by the name of the Ping May was caught with 90 pounds of cocaine with a street value of $6.7 million, okay? And if this president was really serious about stopping drugs from coming into our country, we would be crawling up the stern shaft of every boat that Mitch McConnell's wife owns.
Yep. I agree. I mean, like even his own party was referring to him as Cocaine Mitch. That's how widely understood that is. You know, that dude who was running, I think in West Virginia, who was basically running to out Tea Party. The Tea Party was running on a we got to dethrone Cocaine Mitch. And that wasn't a Democrat who was coming out on the floor with those, and I'm sure when you listen to the show, even when Johnny's not on, which I appreciate, by the way, you heard a couple of weeks ago when I broke down all those stats, and I went through and I went over the FBI and the Department of Homeland Security's statistics on where the drugs come from, how much comes in, what, and it's so interesting to me that one of the arguments that Trump keeps making, which drives me nuts, is look at all the drugs that we're catching at the border. Like, yeah, we're catching them. The ones that are getting through, the ones that people are using, came in through the ports of entry. We know that because we track a portion of it to find out who the dealers are. So the FBI, the U.S. Marshals, the local police and state police, they track, through, working with the federales, working with the Mexican police. They track certain shipments to see what got through, and then they seize it on this side or whatever. But to find the network, that's what you've been doing. And what they find out is the stuff that doesn't get seized is the stuff that's coming through the ports. It's coming in by boat. It's coming in driven through cars. But the stuff that is getting through, the stuff that is getting stopped at the border, at the southern border, at non-points of entry. They're like, we got to put up a wall to stop all this stuff that we're already stopping, basically, is the argument. Well, look how many people we caught. Yeah, the people you're not catching are people who are overstaying visas who flew here. Catch those people if that's your complaint, that there's too many illegal immigrants in the country. But they don't. They're like, look at all these people. But we got them already. Yeah. So
right, but my main point is this, though. Nobody in Congress is really laying that out on C-SPAN or even when they talk to MSNBC and they get a chance to be interviewed. I mean, they keep legitimizing the argument. See, one of my things is, do you play chess? I play chess.
Yeah.
Are you a chess player?
Yep.
Okay. When you're playing chess, you got your pawns, your bishops, your rooks, your castles, and your queen and your king. Okay. Yep. You have different pieces that do different things, but the main goal is to capture the other person's king. So when the other player is dilly-dallying around with his pawn and he's moving his bishop back and forth and this and this and that, it's like all that's smoke and mirrors or blocks.
That's right.
But the main point is to get the king. So when he's sitting there talking about this wall and Mexicans and this and this and that, what they're doing is distracting us from the fact that Mitch McConnell's wife's family owns ships, boats, giant cargo freight that's coming in with 90 and 100 pounds of cocaine for who knows how long, and nobody's following up on that.
Trump, exactly. Trump likes to play chess with all pawns. I mean, that's literally the only way he can focus on a game. Like, and I agree with you. There's almost a whole separate issue from Trump himself in that, how deep that stuff goes with Mitch McConnell. I completely agree. And I'm curious. A lot of Republicans, like Democrats in the Senate and in the House, there's always this comedy thing that goes on, and and because we have a peaceful exchange of power every 4 years and all that kind of stuff, it is necessary as a country. But there is a call out that has to happen at some point. And it's weird to me that it came from inside of his own party. Like the calls were coming from inside the House. But we're getting close on this, and I want to grab another call. But I really appreciate the point, and I appreciate you calling in, and thank you for talking Johnny into being on every week. I'm glad that he's decided to do that now.
You did it.
You did it, right. Cool. Thanks so much. Who else do we have, Johnny? Because I want to get them before we have...
We've got David from San Francisco. I think we've talked to him before.
Hey, David. Welcome.
Oh, working on it.
Is he there? Do we have him?
I just went dead.
There he is.
Oh, there we go.
Yep.
Yeah, appreciate it, Hal. Johnny?
Yeah.
Hey.
Hey, a couple of things. First of all, you were searching for a word there. That'd be searching the scuppers, lad.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
That's where the exhaust pipe, it's actually the sewage pipe out of a ship. Yeah. So the other thing I was going to raise, you know how, in fact, both of you being into media, you might have some ideas on this. You know how Trump keeps saying, "Oh, we're trying to fight the deep state."
Right.
Well, if you look at the history of the deep state, you remember the book that came out a couple of years ago called "I Was an Economic Hitman"?
Yes. Tales of an Economic Hitman. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Now he's kind of the equivalent of deep state. A guy who would help bring down a government, like bringing down Bolivia, bringing down the Congo, or bringing down.
Sorry. Excuse me.
Sure. Yeah. Venezuela. Right. And so you start looking at the history of Roger Stone, and you start looking at the history of Paul Manafort.
Mm-hmm.
They are the deep state.
Yes.
Those guys managed PR for dictators. And when you start looking at the techniques that they've been using for 40 years, it was one thing if we allowed them to manage the dictatorship of, the Philippines or Botswana or someplace.
Right.
But now here's Manafort as a campaign manager for the U.S. president.
Right.
That's a pretty grim thought, that all of a sudden we're going to be attacked by the deep state, and Donald Trump is claiming that he's fighting it when he was using them.
Well, he's been counting on it. I mean, look at... okay, here's a great example of like swamp creatures who represent this kind of underlying power network, right, that they would view as the deep state. Roy Cohn, like a classic example of somebody who is just vicious, used any strategy he could come up with to destroy people, never saw a victimizing piece of legislation he didn't like, would work as a hired gun for anybody who wanted cover, was a known blackmailer, obviously a swamp creature of the highest order. Just the stuff about him is so disturbing as a human, just a complete psychopath. And Trump wants his very own Roy Cohn. His big complaint his entire time he's been in office is, where's my Roy Cohn? Why don't I have a Roy Cohn? Where's the Roy Cohn that's gonna protect me from any kind of ethics or legal problems I might craft on my own?
Sure. I spent a lot of time right after I learned about Manafort and Stone's past that I discovered the tie to the Roy Cohn being there. They were mentored by Roy Cohn, Manafort and Stone. And one of the books, you might get a kick out of it. It came out, if I remember right, in 1962. It's called, it's by a Senator Potter. It's called Days of Shame. And in it, it's interesting because it opens up, and you remember Roy Cohn sitting by the side of Joe McCarthy.
Right.
So this Senator Potter of Michigan was also sitting on that same subcommittee, the Senate House Senate on American Activities Committee with Joe McCarthy, and he realizes, first thing, Joe McCarthy was endorsed by the Communist Party of Wisconsin when he ran the first time.
Right.
And at the end, you remember just the other day, Trump was outing Pelosi's airline package, and he basically tried to destroy her travel plans to the Middle East, right? Put her in danger, put the SEALs in danger. Well, that was what Joe McCarthy did by the end of this same book. Joe McCarthy on live television outs a forward NSA listening post, 20,000 people, and he outs it on live TV.
Right.
And this whole book, it's like whether these guys are actually saboteurs playing dumb. They're pretending to be dumb, but they're actually outing our most important secrets. And the only other thing I'd add is that Russia is not a communist country.
No.
It's a kleptocracy.
Right.
It's government by organized
So is Venezuela,
crime.
by the way.
Depends on who's in charge, you say.
Well, currently.
But yeah, but the point is that like at the end of the Soviet Union, this would be 1991, their ruble fell to zero. And so you couldn't buy anything in Russia anymore. And so the fat cats of the world went in there and just bought up all the apartments, all the farms, all the factories, everything. And so these kleptocrats are basically the con artists that own everything. They're always trying to money launder, get their money the heck out of this dictatorship that they run. And so who's there to handle the money laundering but, Roger Stone, Manafort,
and
Trump,
through Donald Trump,
Sure.
and arguably the Kushners as well. We got to take a break. I went way over the break. I think almost breezed past the whole thing. Appreciate the call though. It was like an excellent point to bring up. We're going to take a break right now. It's the Hal Sparks Radio program, Mega Worldwide on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk. Put WCPT820.com in your browser, and you can listen to the show in your car on iHeart as well. We'll be back right after this. Yeah. Real estate is a great way to launder money. Yeah, it's funny. You can't buy a car through a proxy without saying who you are and registering it to an actual somebody, but you can with houses. It's so weird. And, and with enough layers, a quote multinational corporation with, a field office in Miami or downtown Des Moines is enough to allow you to take foreign money and buy as much, residential and commercial real estate in the United States as you possibly want. You can get around the laws, 6 ways to Sunday. Owner of the Grand Lake Theater in Oklahoma has added 2 free morning screenings of The Manchurian Candidate this weekend, citing escalating Russia collusion allegations against President Trump. That's hilarious. That's amazing. If you want to say Venezuela is a kleptocracy, now sure, but stop this crap like before Chavez and Maduro. It was some sort of people helping democracy. It wasn't. I didn't ever say that. I didn't say it went from a good democracy to to crap now. I'm just saying it's crap now. Did I say that at any point? Hal, is Venezuela in debt to Russia? Yes. CPT is a little tad hot, but not too distorted, just clipping a bit. It could be them, not you. I don't. It's funny. The app. I'm very loud, going anyways. But let me try this, and I'll bring that. I keep trying to bring the app volume down, and it still pegs. I don't know quite what the shenanigans are. Maybe it's this. Perhaps. Hey, is that a little better? Chicago, yeah. It's when there's too many links in the chain. Might be. Real estate developers and companies have bought laws just for them. That's why Trump apparently could not pay taxes because of his real estate losses for years and years after. That's true. YouTube level is okay, but CPT is hot. All the video is solid now. Thanks. Oh, thanks, Brad. I appreciate it. And thank you guys for the anti-buffering fund. That's very sweet, Amos and Milkman Norm. I'll thank you guys in the air. Thank you, Mike, Richard Fleer, for the $9.99. Isn't King's kid on the DB board or grandkid? I'm on the DB board. I'm not sure about that.
30 seconds.
Excellent. Yeah, I'll say it. I never at any point fantasized that Venezuela was somehow going swimmingly. Maduro bought Russian weapons. I wish Thug 45 would get our diplomats out of there for the time being. We are.
Now let's get back with Hal Sparks' radio program, Mega Worldwide.
So we went kind of in the break, so it's a weird block this time. So I want to just cover some of the stuff that's in the Roger Stone indictment. There's a couple of things that really stand out. One of them is his working with and or attempting to work with at certain times WikiLeaks. Now it seems very clear that throughout that someone was working as an intermediary and already with WikiLeaks, and Stone wanted it to be him. And it more than likely sounds like they were getting some bump and benefit from WikiLeaks' own desire to go after Hillary Clinton and basically ignore Donald Trump. They were getting there was a plus hit from that anyways. But at one point, somebody is telling Roger Stone, look, talk to them and get them to help us, push back against her. Let's start, tying these two things, tying our ships together. And on page 4, the way I have it printed out, it's from the way it was laid out is on or about July 25th, 2016, Stone sent an email to, quote, person 1 with the subject line, get to the WikiLeaks. The body of the message read, get to Assange at the Ecuadorian embassy in London and get the pending WikiLeaks emails. They deal with Foundation, allegedly, meaning the Clinton Foundation. So he's already gotten word from some other source that he should get the stuff from WikiLeaks. Somebody involved with WikiLeaks is telling him through another source, hey, they've got this stuff. And he's like, get it for us. And on or above that same day, person 1 forwarded Stone's email to an associate who lived in the United Kingdom and was a supporter of the Trump campaign. And that it's... I don't know if they mean Assange specifically in that. They don't, in a lot of these they cite, person 1, person 2 or whatever, and person 1 in this is that radio guy that they were talking to. So let's see. On or about July 31st, 2016, Stone emails him again with the subject line, call me Monday. The body of the email read in part that person 1's associate in the United Kingdom, quote, should see Assange. Basically, should go see him. So they're through other sources, through either WhatsApp or some other source. They're doing these dual coordinations, and it's either stuff that wasn't recovered, hasn't been recovered, or they're not even bothering to say it because they don't need to yet. On September 19th, 2016, Stone texts quote person 2 again, which is the dude he was threatening. I think. He threatens later. He goes, pass my message to Assange. Person 2 says, I did. On or about September 20th, 2016, person 2 forwarded the request to a friend who was an attorney with the ability to contact Assange. Person 2 blind copied Stone on the forwarded email. So they're tied in on this. Okay, so then on October 1st, 2016, which was a Saturday, person 2 sent Stone a text message saying, big news Wednesday. Now pretend you don't know me. Hillary's campaign will die this week. So this was, this is him basically relating from WikiLeaks that they're coming out. In the days preceding these messages, the press had reported the head of that Assange planned to make a public announcement on or about Tuesday, which was reported to be the 10-year anniversary of the founding of WikiLeaks. On or about October 6th, emailed person 2 with the subject line WTF. Let's see, that WikiLeaks was canceling its highly anticipated Tuesday announcement due to security concerns. Person 2 responded to Stone head fake. So they're back and forth. At one point, he emails him. Stone wrote to a supporter involved with the Trump campaign, which they don't name in this, even as an individual, and says, spoke to my friend in London last night. The payload is still coming. So the only defense he has right now that he didn't talk to either Assange or someone who was coordinating with Assange and giving it to the Trump campaign as a conduit is that he was lying. This is his only defense at this point. I was lying just to raise my status, right? So there you go. So later that day, on or about October 4th, the supporter involved with the Trump campaign asked Stone via text message if he had heard, quote, heard any more from London. Stone replied, yes. Want to talk on a secure line. Got WhatsApp. So there, you know.
What's that?
So the big part of it comes from what the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence got out of Stone, and that you know, Mueller's team got copies of his testimony right before the holidays, and this is why CNN was staking him out. That right before they snatch somebody up, one of the things they do is they officially request stuff they already have. They already have copies of it, but they can't you know, make an indictment or any of those things on stuff that they haven't officially been given. It's not illegal for them to have it. It's not like, you know, some sort of fruit of the poison tree thing. Like, you have no right to ask for that. They have every right to, but they have to formally request it to enter it into evidence that is in their possession. It's you know, standard operating procedure. So in the course of his testimony in front of the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence, Stone made deliberately false and misleading statements to the committee concerning, among other things, his possession of documents pertinent to their investigation. So if they're saying he made deliberately false and misleading statements, and they're indicting him on him lying about his possession of those documents, A, they know he actually has them when he says he doesn't, and B, that means they have them. Like, that is the one thing that keeps coming up in this. The source of his early August 2016 statements about Organization 1, requests he made for information from the head of Organization 1, meaning Assange, his communications with his identified intermediary, and his communications with the Trump campaign about WikiLeaks. That identified intermediary person, which they don't have a designation for in this stuff, is very curious to me. And one of the things that kind of, you know, sticks out, you know, because most of the time they'll say Organization 1, Individual 1, you know, which is Trump, those kind of things. So, all right, so there's a bunch of this stuff in here, and I obviously won't have time to cover all of it today, and we got to take a break in a second. But on page 12, it says at the bottom of, you know, section F of the stuff about at the time of his false testimony, Stone was still in possession of many of these emails and text messages, including, and they have a whole breakdown of them. The letter F in their exhibits is the emails on or about October 4th, 2016, between Stone and the high-ranking member of the Trump campaign, including Stone's statement that Organization 1 would release, quote, a load every week going forward. So he's talking to, and the question is it Manafort or is it Don Jr. or is it Trump himself? Because they are emails, I lean more towards it being Don Jr. Because if it's what you say, I love it, you know, he's such a dummy about what he'll reply to that Manafort, you know, it's always been my contention and my belief that Manafort sitting in that meeting, who was supposedly not paying attention in the Trump Tower meeting, was simply holding a speakerphone for Donald Trump. That's what Manafort was doing in the room, allowing Trump to participate in the meeting without participating in the meeting, by listening, calling because he was on his quote on his phone the whole time. And I think he was either texting back and forth with Trump, but more than likely he just had him on speakerphone. Last piece, and then we got to take a break. On or about September 19th, 2016, Stone texted person 2 again, writing, "Pass my message to Assange." Person responded, "I did." And the next day, person 2 in an email, blind copied Stone, forwarding. Oh, that's the repeating section. My bad. It was here. It is. During his HPSCI testimony, Stone was asked, "Did you discuss your conversations with the intermediary with anyone involved in the Trump campaign?" Stone falsely and misleadingly answered, "I did not. In truth and in fact, as described above, Stone spoke to multiple individuals involved in the Trump campaign about what he claimed to have learned from his intermediary to Organization 1, including the following." And they have a list of 3 elements of it, which means they have texts and emails between him and not just Manafort and not just Don Jr., possibly Trump, but it's at least those 2 guys, at base. If it's one or other of those, it'll just say one or the other. But the fact that it's multiple people means those are the 2 he's most involved with. Because he's close with Manafort. He's known Trump his entire life. There is no reason to believe he's not in direct communication with Trump the entire time. And looping him in verbally on everything. But he would be on WhatsApp, on texts and messages, talking to Don Jr. as the other pilot person in this. This is the reason within 3 hours of them picking up Roger Stone, Trump was out on the Rose Garden, out in the Rose Garden, sniffing up a storm and calling capitulation we didn't cave. There was no caving, no puppet, no cave, no puppets and caves. I just won.
And Coulter is actually publicly saying that she made a mistake with Trump. She's a stupid girl, quote unquote.
Well, it's it's tough, Beauty school dropout. So when we come back, Johnny Million will do selected readings from Ann Coulter's Twitter feed.
Holy crap.
Yeah. I'm making you do it. Since do
I have to go look something up?
It's pretty easy.
Okay.
Yeah. You do it so other people don't have to. This is us. Sometimes we have to throw ourselves on the grenade for other people. We read it on the radio and show stuff so that they don't have to go anywhere near it. Right, we'll be back. It's the House Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide. We're streaming on YouTube. Like and subscribe to the show there. Help us out. We really appreciate it. We got 234 people in the chat room right now. It's pretty impressive. If you can support the show via Patreon, go to patreon.com/HalSparks, or you can super chat us right in the chat room right on YouTube. We really appreciate that. And we'll be back right after this. Let's see. I'm rolling back into the chat room. I missed a bunch because I was reading that whole piece of this. But Amos, yes, then Stone complained that the FBI had raided his house and scared my dog. Yeah, right. What an a-hole. No, she's threatening you because I keep saying, okay, somebody getting bumped out or whatever. Oh, who was that? Who just super chatted with us? Was that? Thanks, Bob. Free Ann Coulter from her mirror fund. Yeah. Mirror, mirror on the wall. Which I think originally it was magic mirror on the wall and has become, the vernacular became mirror, mirror on the wall because of the euphony of saying mirror, mirror instead of magic mirror. I love all the things that have become Mandela effect things that were simply either rebranding for legal reasons, like Captain Crunch becoming Captain Crunch because he's not really a captain, or Fruit Loops using 2 O's because they can't really say fruit anymore because there's no fruit involved, because the taste of their strawberries comes from burning piles of beetles, that kind of stuff. Thank you, Bob. I really appreciate that. I'm going to thank you guys on the air, too, who said, my whole life is about winning. I don't lose often. I almost never lose. Gee, Trump? I don't know. It sounds like him. Mirror, mirror on the wall. I can't see myself at all. She qualifies as vampire. I'm ready for my close-up, Mr. Sparks. Indeed. Yeah, or Luke, I am your father. That was originally, no, I am your father. And people think it's Luke because people say that in the vernacular afterwards. Burning beetles? Yeah. Strawberry, quote, there's a natural strawberry flavoring that the only thing natural about it is the fact that it comes from living beetles. I got to find it.
25 seconds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Welcome back to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide. It's now time for the happy ending.
Yeah, this isn't a happy ending, but it came up. You know what? Cochineal dye is. Johnny. Just gonna.
I do not.
It's a pink dye that is used in a lot of foods. It is natural, and it comes from crushing parasitic beetles. And it's used in a lot of drinks and beverages. And it's also where the flavor comes from. There's another beetle. So it's these particular beetles. Somebody realized there was an infestation of them. When they realized they burned them, they smelled like strawberries for whatever reason. So like, hey, maybe we can make a flavor out of this. So they took the powdered, they ground them up, powdered them, added a little bit of sugar. Voila. Natural strawberry flavoring. It's not natural strawberry flavoring. It's natural strawberry flavoring. That just to settle that bet in the chat room. You're welcome. And by the way, I want to thank Bob Kirksey for the super chat, and Richard Fleer and Amos, who calls in often too. Milkman Norm, Billy, and Hal Vickery and Fessor Frank. Thank you guys so much.
Pal,
for
even for you.
Huh? You what?
Yeah, you dropped out right after you said, by the way.
Oh, by the way. Oh, that's so terrible.
By the way, nothing.
Oh, sorry. By the way, I want to thank our chat room super chats. Do you hear that much so far?
Yes.
Bob Kirksey, thank you so much. Richard Fleer, thank you. Amos, Barrow, Milkman Norm, Billy Hutchins, Hal Vickery, and Fessor Frank, thank you guys so much. And I also want to thank Julie and Carl for being our moderators and being on Troll Hunt. Johnny, what do you got for us? I want to hear Johnny Million poetic renditions of the...
Maybe the solution to the border crisis is not deporting 22 million illegals, but one Jared Kushner.
All right, that's... It's pretty close. It's working on Lady B. I can hear it in
Trump
the background.
tweets about Roger Stone raid. Who anointed CNN to be there? Just think, if you were president, you could haul the FBI director's ass into the Oval Office and ask him yourself.
I don't know.
I don't even know what that voice is.
I don't either. It was drifting into something else, but I like it.
Yeah.
If this is your Ann Coulter, I'm fine. I don't need to hear her actual...
I can actually remember it.
Yeah, right. It's just weird, because, like, people like Bill Maher clearly have this weird crush on her.
Why the F does she get time on his show?
Yeah. Because 100% that. That's why.
Well, didn't he work with her somewhere else before she was deciding she was absolutely crazy?
I'm gonna go with slept, but sure. But yeah. Yeah. So let's see. There's one more. Let's see.
I already closed the page.
Okay. This is the one that stood out to me, and this is the one that shocked.
Try to do my voice.
Huh?
I'm Ray Romano playing a version of Ann Coulter. Obviously.
It's someone from Bob's Burgers, I think.
Is it?
Yeah, it's the nice guy who just like rolls with the punches, who had all the bug bites.
I don't know. I think it's just somebody Kurt in the chat room said Robin Leach. It's like like if you slowed the tape down. It's Robin Leach if you slow the tape down.
Oh, the lifetime.
So this is
obviously the government shutdown hasn't gone on far enough if the corrupt and incompetent FBI still has funds for a Keystone Cop stunt like the pre-dawn raid on Roger Stone. Oh.
That's got to be our new Ann Coulter, because I'm not going to deal
without
with
question
the dignity of doing.
Oh. Good news for George Herbert Walker Bush. Oh, as of today, he's no longer the biggest wimp ever to serve as the president of the United States.
It's devoid of any similarity to whatever her speech pattern might be.
I don't care. You know, and one of the things
so awesome.
I talked about this. You know, I went to Politicon this year, and I've shot a bunch of video, and I've got to edit it and put it up on the, on my YouTube channel, because you guys got to see, the stuff that I walked around. And I try to build some bridges, have some conversations, not be completely hostile my time there. But the first time I went, one of the most shocking things I saw was the amount of camaraderie between pundits backstage, especially people who are supposedly, opposite ends. And the love between her and Van Jones was one of the weirdest things I saw, because they both came out of, they had this panel, and they're both disgusting to each other, kind of, out there. They're mad and, like, how dare you kind of attitude. And then they come backstage and they're like, I wasn't too hard on you, was I? Was that okay? I said that. I didn't mean to be. And
what
I was
is
like,
professional wrestling?
Yes. Or remember the sheepdog and the coyote stuff from
yeah,
Old Warner? That's what it was like. It's like. Yeah, it was like they clocked out and they were back to being normal. And I'm like, you know what? People need to see that part.
Yeah.
That would be better than anybody, any pundit on television, if they saw that part of it. So, anyways, Johnny Million, love you.
Yeah.
I'll be in Seattle. I'll be in Seattle next weekend at Bellevue.
I won't.
No, you won't. And but you'll be on the show because you insist. Yeah, you're welcome anytime. You don't have to. I understand. I'm not pressuring you, but there is a little pressure.
I feel no pressure.
A little bit of a post show after this. Stick around if you want to on the YouTube channel. If not, stick around for Dick K. Thank you, Lady B. Bring your inhaler next time, because I have a feeling it's just going to get worse. Because I got selected readings from Art of the Deal.
And some of will read Resistance is Futile.
Marvin Martian, too.
Yeah, right. Oh. That makes sense. We got to take a break. You got to get to Dick K. But thanks so much, you guys. We'll talk to you next time. It's the House Parks Radio program, Mega Worldwide. Every Saturday, join us. I love my own music. Thanks, Chicago. Love you guys. Bye. Signing off. Awesome. You guys are great. The super beats really work. It's good for you. Oh, here you go. I'm going to start the post show real quick. Just going to start a little piece of this. Hold on. Create highlight. This is how we do it. Post show. Hey everybody, welcome to the House Parks Radio program, Mega Worldwide post show. A little shorter than normal today because I got to go catch a flight because I'm in Vegas, but I'm going to LA tonight, and I'm going to I'll be at NAMM, the National Association of Music Makers, hanging out with some of my music buddies. Hopefully getting to see the DLR band, the David Lee Roth band. Very excited about that. News on that later. And other LA-related stuff. And then I'm in Bellevue, Washington at the Parlor Live this coming weekend, the 31st, 1st, and 2nd. So if you can come down and join us there, that would be awesome. Look, Julie, I took my buds out. Thanks for the reminder. Thanks, Brad. It was I appreciate it. Julie's always watching out for me. I can sit there like stuffing my... So, Bellevue, Washington. And then next month, Valentine's Day weekend, I'm in Iowa, in Des Moines. Dates at houseparks.com. And so, yeah, let's. I want to do something real quick. And this is not an ad. It's actually a non-ad ad because I'm not getting paid for this. This is just simply, I think you guys should know about this stuff. Summer worked for these guys at like helped them out at CES. It's this company called Whoosh. Let's see if this holds up and you can read it or whatever. And they make a bunch of different like device like screen cleaning stuff, like, and their whole thing is like tech hygiene. I posted about it a little while ago just because it's they have that they have like a screen and this stuff called Diamond Defense. This is one of those screen protectors you put on your screen so it doesn't break, but it also is naturally antibacterial instead of chemical or whatever. So all these sprays are like okay around pets, they're okay around kids, and because of Camden and stuff, I got a bunch of this stuff from them and I gave it to his teacher so that because they use like tablets to do some of their assignments in school, and so I was like, please wash these so that people do not get sick. And so I gave her a bunch of these, but it's called Whoosh, WHOOSH, whoosh.com. This is not an ad. I'm not getting paid for this. I just like it. And Summer and I use it all the time, and I recommend it. So there you go. That's my non-ad ad. So, I wish I had a promo code I could give you. Maybe I'll ask them for one, just for like HSRPM. But it's like I said, not getting paid for this. Just wanted to mention it. Whoosh.com. It's not too expensive. A lot of times, they're like impulse buy kind of stuff in Best Buy and a couple other places you can find them. But it's easier to get them online or on Amazon. I'll post a link. Yeah, it's about $15. But like one spray thing lasts forever, and so we use them all the time. So and then they have these. Hold on. They have like wipes for your devices, so like for your keyboard and that kind of stuff. If somebody's using your stuff, like it's just good, like, and it doesn't muck up your technology because some stuff will like bleach your keys and mess up your screen and whatever. It's just good stuff. So there you go. That's just my 2 cents. Again, not getting paid to say that at all. There you go. Let's see. When I sub, I use hand sanitizer. Constantly, kids are dirty little creatures. Yeah, exactly. This stuff is nice because it keeps the bacteria from growing on this stuff long term. So, anyways, there you go. Looking for a screen protector for my Fire tablet. They have those. They have big enough screen ones. Hal, check out the Boondocks take on Coulter. Funny stuff. Satirizes the strange bedfellows relationship. Boondocks, the real Ann Coulter revealed. I will watch that. Thanks for the heads up, Yamini. N-Dust for electronics is very good too. Yeah, I have a Swoosh makes a spray too, like a dust spray. I use that as well. Hey, Justin, welcome. What's happening? In the next generation of YouTube chat, wouldn't it be great if we could chat in our own silly voices, Pee Wee Herman voice? Yeah, I mean, I think there should be like in the future, there should at least be the potential for like italics and stuff. Oh, Natalie, thank you for the anti-buffering fun or any future technical difficulties fun. Thank you. Well, I was able to solve it, in intermediary, which is helpful. Yeah, it's nice. You know what I mean? So I greatly appreciate that. I'm glad to hear it, man. I got Zelda saying I got to head out. Thanks for all the wishes. Hal, thanks for the song. Love the show today. Thank you, Zelda, and happy birthday. Mark Lamont says, it sounds like the character that Billy Crystal did in the movie Running Scared. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, I don't like Costanza and Hughes and Costanza because they don't pay me no more, and I'm mad.
Yeah, it's pretty close.
Hello? Oh, gotta go. Final Jeopardy's on. No, dummy. The answer was Ipswich clams. I'm just upset because a man was watching the Final Jeopardy and watching Jeopardy, and the man was trying Final Jeopardy, and he did not know what Deuteronomy was. Hal, I hear that the only reason that the guy who wrote Art of the Deal can say whatever he wants is that before Trump learned about the gag contracts, it was before Trump learned about gag contracts to stop people from talking bad about him.
that I don't know, that it would make sense, certainly. I mean, a non-disclosure agreements, he had to be aware of non-disclosure agreements. He had to. But at the same time, maybe he didn't think he needed one from dudes. You know what I mean? I think at some point, like, unless you're a lawyer, he assumes he has them with lawyers. Most of the dudes he's working with in business are as corrupt as he is, so it's not like they're gonna, if he goes down, they go with him, so they're all just protecting it, yeah, but that's, I think he said that he didn't know what, that he's working with, he's used to working with guys, and he only wants non-disclosure agreements with women because of that. Don't forget how it's also Rizzuto's birthday. Phil Rizzuto from the Money Store. Another great Billy Crystal character voice. Or he assumes that if Tony Schwartz wrote the book, he would never say anything bad about him. Yeah, I think that's also true. Like, this guy loves me. Look what he wrote. He wrote that I'm an artist at making deals. How could you write those words and then turn on me, right? I'm going to turn off my laptop. Get back up here. Because I'm going to have to bail out fairly soon to make it to... I'll be on for at least a half hour. Do a half-hour post show today, if that's okay with you guys, because I have to go catch a plane. And like I said, I'll be doing the show live from Seattle next week. Art of the Deal was published in 1987, a long time ago. Yeah, I know. I was in high school. Bye, Hal Vickery. Good to see you. I was like, why is it bye? I'm not leaving. Oh, and then I saw the V. Yeah, take care, Al Vickery. Thank you for the super chat. Really appreciate you being with us every week. I have to head out. Let's see. Okay, there, I found it. Okay. Scott Rizzuto from St. Louis, 105.7. Oh, I don't know Scott. Do I? Maybe I do. Art of the Deal was posted. Let's see. I was wondering if you have a nice Gilbert Gottfried imitation. Actually, it's not that hard. But it's not that good either. I haven't really tried it because my Gilbert Gottfried impersonation is largely based on him in Ford Fairlane. Look at us. Two regular dicks, except you're the detective and I'm just a dick. And then, of course, anytime you tell a dirty joke, doing it in a Gilbert Gottfried voice always makes it more palatable. Yeah. What do I have in this hand? I don't even remember. The Susan one. Yeah, I've never tried it out loud. I think I've done it only in my head up till now. Bring a coat when you do the February 13th gig. It's 9 degrees here now. 9. Yeah, I know. I was in the Midwest a week ago, and it was 8 degrees. Yeah. I always think of him on Stern or Beverly Hills Cop. I always picture him from, yeah. Yeah, here's to you. And the Aristocrats, yeah. Well, the Aristocrats is the classic one because he, told a dirty joke to break the tension after 9/11, which is something, in our modern PC culture, you probably couldn't get away with today, or people would go, how dare he? But it was necessary at the time. Prostitution should not be prohibitioned, in my humble opinion. I agree with that. I mean, I find it ironic that most of the people who are against prostitution are right wing and like they do it for like Christian moral reasons, but there's all sorts of other Christian stuff they let go by the wayside they don't care about. I mean, it always goes back to the idea of like being gay is horrible, but Leviticus says that eating shrimp is horrible, and they're on the same par. So meanwhile they'll tell you over a shrimp cocktail while wearing a polycotton blend pants that gay people are going to hell. That selective readings is always the tough part. And that's selective readings are also part of any religion, simply because some of the stuff is tribal, and some of the stuff started as the spiritual teachings that should have outlived them. So, should Al Franken do something about Roger Stone backing his accuser? I mean, I don't think that's a winning proposition, anyways. But but if it hurts Roger Stone because of, it points out the fact that he selectively cares about that stuff. What about gay shrimp? I hear that's good. I've never tried it, but it sounds crispy. Prostitution and prohibition. What about prostitutes who drink? That's right. It's legal for a prostitute to drink, but not while she's on the job. Is that what you're saying? I don't understand. There's also a state that inadvertently legalized indoor prostitution for a few years, allowing a study to be conducted in the U.S. and violence against women was reduced. Yeah, well, I'm in Nevada. It has its own rules, and it certainly does lower that part of it. There's bodily autonomy has to be something that the law respects to some degree, and I have a joke in my act that I can't say on YouTube without getting demonetized for language, but the idea is that it sort of boils down to, how do I reshape this? That accountants are brain hookers. That they allow you to stick your receipts in their brain. And that's a form of prostitution. I really think homophobia is Judaism is just sad. They did it because of Alexander in Greece, probably. No, they did it because of tribalism. Any group that's trying to that's being outpopulated, that tries to outpopulate another group, one of the first things they do is outlaw homosexuality because they need as many babies as possible, and clearly it's counterproductive in that regard. That's largely why the Catholics did it. It's the same reason they outlaw divorce. It's the same reason they outlaw contraception. If you're trying to, outbreed, you're being outbred by your enemy, or you're trying to outbreed your enemy. That it's tribes used to do that. Like, yeah, sorry if you're gay, but you still got to get a wife and have a kid. It's all made up in the Bible. Let's see. They updated Deuteronomy to say gay people are serpents, where it had previously read dragons. I wrote that maybe the next update probably reads snakes, or they probably should update some other stuff. Yeah. Why would you update the Bible? I mean, I think arguably the smart thing would be to go back, before, to where the root Sumerian texts came from, and pare out all the tribalism added by, by the Israelites and by the pre-Romanic Christians, that stuff. Admiral Akbar has a shrimp fleet ready to vaporize all shrimp eater stores, right? That's a trap. Plus, if you ban homosexuality, you can control everyone's sexuality with gender segregation. Well, if you gender segregate, it's harder to control homosexuality. I mean, that's what they found, was that when you have a situation where you segregate based on gender, you create a rise in homosexuality, what would be, opportunistic sexual activity. That is not based on a natural inclination. That's the weird argument that right-wingers always make, guys in prison are gay and then they stop being gay, so why can't gays stop being gay? And they're not gay when they're in prison. They're making do sexually. They don't care. They're using another human being for their sexual needs, which is not the same thing as falling in love with and being sexually attracted to someone of your same sex. It's not the same thing. And so, yeah, anyways, it would be nice if some people could just join the 21st century. Organized religion is not my idea of good. It depends on which one it is. Jailhouse sex. Yeah, who'd have thunk it? Hard to find or double hidden to prevent them. Hard to find or double hidden to prevent them from being used. It's weird the Catholic Church just adopted homophobia from Tanakh. The priesthood is such a boys' club. Well, and again, look at early tribal strategies and understand that not all of it was just simply made out of disgust. That's what qualifies as homophobia or any of the phobias is an automatic fear-based and usually disgust-based reaction to something. It grosses you out instantly. It makes you afraid instantly. That's what it has to be, a phobia. Anything short of that is a prejudice or a bigotry you have come by, and you can be talked out of it and taught out of it over time if anybody actually makes the effort. A phobia is a mental disease. So anytime people just use, I talk about this in my act right now. I've used homophobia, Islamophobia, transphobia, these things kind of interchangeably with bigotry. It's a form, technically what would it be, a form of ableism? Because you're talking to people who have a mental disorder. Any kind of a phobia is a mental disorder. And unless we're ready to say that mental disorders are your fault, we're actually taking some of the responsibility away from bigots when we say that's homophobic or that's transphobic or whatever. That's why I've always said, call racism, racism. Call bigotry, bigotry. And if someone's phobic about the stuff, educate them. I have agoraphobia, right. I've been to Agora a couple of times. It's, I'm just afraid of driving up the 101 to get there. But one of the reasons why, when the Catholics were being outbred in their minds and they outlawed contraception to increase their numbers, tribes and groups have always made these kind of strategic breeding decisions to protect themselves. And so what happens? So you outlaw homosexuality and you outlaw divorce because you want people to stay together and keep having babies. If they can get divorced and have a different mate, whom when they're older, they may not keep having kids. They may, the shuffle thins out. So people stop when you've got options like that. But when you tend to be stuck in one situation like the Duggars, you tend to just keep your wife pregnant all the time. And that's what they were hoping for. So that's what they enforced. Well, when you do that, what do you do with naturally occurring gay people in your environment who aren't going to be able to stay that way, and they're going to get divorced, or they're going to run off, or they're going to get caught with someone of their same sex? What do? Well, the priesthood and the nunneries became receptacles for receiving those people. Okay, we don't want, our son who's clearly not going to get married to embarrass the family by getting divorced because we'll all get excommunicated and it'll all be embarrassed, and it's bad, gives the family a bad name. Send him into the priesthood, cover it, and so it naturally became a receptacle for that circumstance, and what happens is you breed an entire subculture of repressed sexuality into the priesthood when you do that. Catholics also outlawed marriage so that the wealth would stay in the church when priests died. Yeah, right. Because they were in charge of a lot of money, and if they could, and because the Catholic Church has deifies Mary, they had more egalitarian and more kind of natural equality written into the familial structure than, say, Coptic Christians or Muslims did, or even Jews. So keeping the priest from being able to get married and then when divorce happens, divide up an entire church. They couldn't have that happen. Either way, what you're doing is you're clamping down on what you see as the natural tribal inclinations of masses of people, and going, one of the reasons why I fish on Fridays is simply as a resource saving episode. So you could look at it as almost their own first climate change attempt was, look, we can't eat all of our land animals in this, and because it requires grain and other stuff to feed these. So if on Fridays we just eat fish, that is caught, and we can use the idea, we'll make you fishers of men and all that kind of stuff as kind of the colloquial reason as to why we, why that makes sense, the biblical kind of storytelling aspect of why we would do that. But ultimately it's so, we can save resources. I'm rolling back to catch it. Hal, cultural illiteracy. People don't know other people. They don't know gay people, black people, Muslims in their everyday lives. Well, certainly some people. I mean, I think cable has changed that more than anything. Obviously, oh, cool, Green Girl. Just bought Whoosh for my office. Oh, good. I'm glad to help. I didn't make a dime off that, but good. Catholics are also outlawed marriage so that wealth would stay in the... Oh, yeah, we read that. Okay, so I'm after this. Okay. A lot of people do interact with gay people and black people and Muslims and still maintain their bigotry. And some people have never met one but don't carry any animosity and wouldn't if they traveled to a country where they'd met them for the first time. Don't carry that. Humans have a wide variety of those things, of responses in these situations. And the more we try to corral that through assertion, the more we kind of peg our own psychology. Organized religion is really for making money and controlling women. No. I think there are certainly like big evangelical movements, mega churches and the like. But I wouldn't rule them out that is the entire organizing principle of what they're doing. There's absolutely the root of what they are teaching from was meant to control sexual behavior, and back then, because there were no condoms, there was no pill, sexually transmitted disease, and there was no way to stop sexually transmitted disease and the like, and we were ignorant about how babies were actually formed pre-Bronze Age. There was you can look at the Bible says, "Do not spill your seed upon the sand," idea that's how we looked at women, as almost like planting fields. We didn't recognize, nor would they know at that time, that women had eggs. They just knew that something came out of guys. And when that something that came out of guys went into a lady, sometimes it grew just like a plant. And so that's where phrases like bun in the oven and, and planting your seed and all that kind of stuff, that's where that came from, How did that one megachurch ever get their third airplane? Let's all pray that they did. I don't think so. They did? Oh, good. I was worried for a second. Well, hopefully, let's pray that they. Let's all join together right now. We're gonna join me in prayer that Joel Osteen's church gets the tanks and anti-personnel mines that they're hoping for. In your between your toenails, amen. So what? They are frauds. I never lie, says the man who lies. I'm by my family knows, but they are disillusioned by being, in their terms, a straight relationship because they don't see me as a man. I'm by my family knows, but they are disillusioned by being, in their terms, they're just. You mean they're confused because in their terms you're in a straight relationship because they don't see you as a man? It's hard to break down what you're saying there. I don't. Here's the thing. If you can't clarify what you're expressing really easily, here's the thing. Everybody needs an elevator pitch for every aspect of themselves they want other people to understand. You need to be able to break down what you're saying about yourself and self-define before you ever expect anybody else to pick up the slack and do that. And that's what self-knowledge is all about. Why you spend time trying to know yourself, and why that's important is so that you can articulate it quickly. You're welcome, Julie. So that you can articulate it quickly and concisely and clearly to people who might not understand it or might have an issue with it. Yeah, I hope that helps. Brad, if you're talking about the guy about his plane, he is the third plane and gave away the other two to other ministries. Oh, that's sweet. Read all the Dune books by Frank Hebert and some of the other books by Brian Herbert. So is spice God or sex or lust, or is it just cocaine? And so I'm a raging liberal. Raging about what? Hal, Mar had a great line last night that regarding the Covington students. After seeing that kid smirking, standing in front of the native elder, I just don't see what priests see in Catholic boys. Oh, yeah. I just started a food drive to help a local homeless shelter. The administrator will admit the government funding is better during Democratic administration, but still votes Republican. Well, that's the crisscross between Leonardo. That's the crisscross experientially. Between people who do something for a religious reason and believe that Christianity is more aligned with the Republican Party, and it's hard to shake loose for those people. And so that's the kind of person you win over through kindness. Hey there, J639. What's happening? Lately, I rage in a good way over how AOC is making her Twitter critics look like total doofs. Yeah, you're my favorite actor. Thanks. Experienced racism and classism in school. Covington kids, not a surprise. They should not be tax exempt. Here's the thing. I think elements of churches should not be taxed. As long as they're not politically active and all that kind of stuff. That was kind of the whole point. If you're not paying taxes, you don't get to have a say. But every aspect, if you hire secular people to run anything in your church, if you hire anybody else, if Joel Osteen's church has an agnostic or Jewish or Hindu or atheist or whatever, anybody else but evangelical in their crowd running a mixing board in their megachurch, you pay complete taxes, 100%. Unless you are an environment in and of yourself. Hey, Michelle. Yeah. If you recent reports of persons coming forth claiming sexual abuse from the Catholic nuns' mushrooms, then the U.S. Catholic Church is really in for it. I don't doubt it. I mean, I think it's, one of the big motions for the Catholic Church will be when they reach, an issue like a zenith with dealing with the sexual issues of the entire system they operate in and how unhealthy it is. In front of our Catholic Church was a sign, God is pro-life. We all knew what it meant, and I told them to take it down. They did. The irony, first of all, the idea that God is pro-life. When he created life, sure, but every living thing dies. Like, it's a goofy statement to make. You can say that, God believes every conceived child should be able to have every chance to, in life to, choose a path for good or discover the wages of sin on their own. Sure. But don't think if God created everything, then AIDS, cancer, child molesters, God created Ted Bundy. I mean, that's a Gordian knot morally to unravel, right? But to use such a bumper sticker phrase like God is pro-life is embarrassing. They were saying vote Republican, no question. Hal read on the news that the Covington students were getting death threats. Yeah, not for that, never for that, no need. And by the way, I tweeted an article with some corresponding video that showed the other angles of that it was not as cut and dry as it was perceived. That kid is clearly a jerk, but the idea that he was, representative of, kind of the new swastika is, I think, overblown in that regard. And he's 15. Like, we have to draw a line that we got to treat kids as kids. and that's a parental issue. So if you'll notice, my criticism when I put it up, when that story first came out, was of his parents and the parenting involved in that. We are responsible for our children. And if someone is not responsible for their child, the response of the community and the country as a whole should be, that's a shame that kid is being raised so poorly. Not, why don't 15-year-olds understand the ramifications of their of their actions or the meaning of what they're doing? It's just like, and that's a baseline rule I have. Kids are kids. Kids should be allowed to be kids, and kids should be allowed to make mistakes. Period. End of story. Because if you do believe in any of the Judeo-Christian values, supposedly, or specifically the Catholic values that his school supposedly represents, the only way you win in that circumstance is by expressing them genuinely. And it's tough. To be honest, I can't believe my actor is reading my comments. So awesome. Oh, well, yep, it happens. Kali creates and destroys. This is true, right? But you wouldn't say Kali is pro-life in that regard. Maybe pro-living, because when you are aware of your mortality, life is more precious to you. So hence the reason for death and destruction and the fall of man is that if it just went on endlessly, you wouldn't appreciate the lessons therein. I'm not for death threats against them, of course, but I am for looking into the school's tax-exempt status and the Pope excommunicating everyone in the school for the systemic racism. Okay. I think you just swap out the people who are teaching at that school, because it's not the next group of students or the next group of students after that are going to a Catholic school. It's not their fault. If Catholics want to have access to a private school near them, they should have that. But the people running it shouldn't be just using it as a right-wing, tool factory. Hal just learned from watching Oh God Book 2 when George Burns said, can't have up without a down. It just works. Right? There you go. Trump said women must be punished for having abortions, yet he said 2 women have them because he got them pregnant. Right. Well, there is no punishment for the man in this regard. There isn't. Like, hey, you had a relationship that resulted in an abortion. You're an accessory after the fact. That was my favorite soup host. Thanks. I've been toying with the idea of doing like Trump soup. I'm wondering if I'll get in legal trouble. How will you be at the SAG Awards show tomorrow night? I'll be at a viewing party down the street. No, I will not. I will be recording tomorrow. I have sessions all day tomorrow and all night. I'm doing vocals on a new song. The whole group were taunting and acting like buffoons, awful behavior, but it's appalling that the adults are co-signing that behavior. I hold the adults responsible. Something is rotten there. I agree that, the adults that were also there, one of the Native American marchers, who's an adult, was swearing at the kids. The BHI, the Black Hebrew Israelites guys who are crazy, were calling them the F word for gay people, were calling their black friends the N-word. And from what it looked like to me, it looked like the native drummer, Nathan Phillips, who had come up, and a couple of the other people came upon the BHI and these kids screaming at each other, and assumed because of the MAGA hats that the kids were being racist to the BHI guys, not the other way around, and started marching towards them. And then this guy was just banging his drum and walking the crowd back, and that one kid just stood still and was a jerk, kind of being a wall, because he was like, "Oh, you're backing these guys who are calling us, an anti-gay slur." And you're siding with them, so I'm not going to side with you. It was that complicated a thing, not as cut and dry as just the kid. That being said, if that kid was raised better, he would have had a better response, right? That's how spell soup differently. That's how rappers avoid trademarks. That's right, SOOP, or didn't he say 2 Corinthians, right? A bishop issued an apology to the Covington students. It seems he was forced to do so. Why doesn't anybody ask Trump how many abortions he's paid for? When's your flight? It's at 2, so I think I'm okay. Thank you for the reminder, Brad. Yeah, I got to get out of here. Even for the Catholic Church, why doesn't the man have to confess for being a part of it? Yeah, I mean, I arguably those would, and the Catholics in the audience will be able to let me know, but what sins, of, ethical and moral behavior that aren't just like, vainglory or something like that they would have to sort of, confess to, PHA guys were also calling them tomorrow's school shooters. That was uncalled for and mean. That was hilarious and talk soup. Thank you, Trump soup, right? Or SOOP, like a Dr. Zeus kind of spelling. Why hasn't anyone asked Michael Cohen how many abortions Trump has paid for or promised? That I'm curious if that came up during the closed session stuff and that people won't want to ask it during the open session stuff because they're worried of how ugly it will look, especially if he says none and they already know the answer to it, even though it's a lie, but they have no way of proving that came through because whatever reasons. Absolutely, BHI are insane. They seem mentally ill and should have been ignored. We had Christian mental cases at the Women's March and they were ranting on a megaphone. Right. So many sins, so little time, Hal. Yeah, Tom, you would know. And again, I remember kids and adults all love the idea of a video they are in going viral. Yeah, again, you don't reach kids by calling them Nazis, especially. You just don't. And I don't think that's what these kids' intentions were. I think a lot of them are, engaged in a lot of teenage troll-like behavior, but it doesn't come from someplace deep. But it goes deep if you treat them like adults who need to be burned to the ground. It's that's a genuine concern I have. And like I said, issues with the school sending a group of kids in MAGA hats on an official school trip, it seems, to a March for Life thing, wearing those instead of, representative garb simply of their school, knowing full well that that's seen as a form of gang wear these days. And you could send your school, like, guys, you're not wearing that stuff. You're going to wear our banners. You're going to carry our stuff, or you're not going as representatives of the school anyways. And the idea is that you're wearing the Make America Great Again hats as opposed to something pro-life. It's just curious to me. You could look at their faces and see that they were still kids and not adults. They shouldn't have been there, period. I agree. I think they were being used by that school, quite frankly. Yeah, they had March for Life gear and didn't wear it. Right. Trump's followers will not care if he's paid for abortions, asking how it would be part. I think that's arguably true. I mean, I think a lot of those people, like I said, even as they would have moral indignation about someone else behaving the way he has behaved, they are jealous of him having multiple wives and his supermodel current wife and his, sleeping with porn stars and all that kind of stuff. They think it's cool. And they're like, man, I wish I could do that. That's how they literally emotionally react to him that way. So they don't believe the criticisms of him about those things, which seem obvious, signs of hypocrisy, go nowhere. But yeah, saw a priest wearing a March for Life cap. Yeah, I mean, do that. You want to march for life? Do that. This is America. You can, you can protest if you really feel it. That's the whole point. I think the kids bought the hats from a street vendor. Poor choice. Yeah, but as the parent in charge of the whole thing, or the priest in charge of it, like, nope, guys, we're not wearing political gear. This is about unborn children. Like, how do you not make that case unless you are on board with that? And that's the problem I have with the adults that would be running that. Another great show. Safe travels today. Have fun tonight. Thank you so much, Lisa Ann, for joining us. I want kids involved with social protests, but someone needs to set rules. I think that's smart. I think it's a little weird when children are brought to pro-choice or anti-choice rallies because they seem to be used as leverage, emotional leverage. Thank you, Seattle Susie Q. Just decided to go whale watching. That's awesome. Use of kids for political purposes is wrong. I agree. No one ever said where the caps came from, did they? I don't think so, but they're definitely for sale everywhere. And these are teenage Kentucky kids. Like, they're gonna. MAGA does not equal KKK. It's not exactly the same thing, and it undermines the argument against the KKK to say so. Again, one of the biggest things a monster wants you to think is he's not alone and you can't escape. I always think of those people who manage to keep people trapped in their homes, like, that dude in Cleveland who kidnapped those 2 girls and had them in his house for a long time. One of the ways he did it was by constantly making them think that he was part of a big network of other people, and if they escaped and went home, even if he got caught, his people and the people like him in his network would kill them or kill their families. It was all BS, but it worked, and it kept them under control. One of the, that statement is, that one of the greatest tricks the devil ever played was convincing you he did not exist. I think the opposite is true, and I've mentioned this before, but I think one of the biggest lies the devil makes people believe, metaphorically speaking, is that he's everywhere, that you're surrounded, that you have no allies, that there is an enemy and that enemy is unreachable, that the world is full of monsters, do not make human bonds. And that's the push. It just is. And you have to be able to constantly do the hard work of making that distinction with every person you meet. And and don't get me wrong, if somebody's wearing a Ku Klux Klan outfit, they're clearly wearing the uniform of that. And there are certainly groups of guys who wear MAGA hats to show those ideas. But it doesn't automatically mean that you disengage from someone wearing a MAGA hat or some sort of garb that's been wearing it the whole time. In the same way that some people are big R Republicans, and they wear that on their shirt no matter what the Republican Party has done. They're emotionally reachable on a lot of issues. That's where you find these people who are like, they loved Obamacare except for the name, that kind of stuff. It's a human failure, and you have to be open to addressing that human failure. That's my personal belief. How we paint these kids will create the way they will defend themselves possibly for years to come. That's true. I love your show. I've been listening for years. I learn to laugh every week. Thank you, Tony. I appreciate that. Thanks for popping in here and saying something. The devil in the White House. Hal-splaining again. Damn straight. Remember some of the HS students in photo of a basketball game with blackface makeup, another indication that something is wrong here? Yeah, but those kids didn't walk into that school that way. That's the difference between that school and how it teaches Catholicism and another school that doesn't do that. And it's important to know that those kids aren't born that way. They're raised in being educated that way, or they're not being educated out of it that way. Oh, Flip Wilson passed away? But that's been a while. That didn't just happen, did it? All right. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. I was like, I'm like, yeah, I think he passed away quite a while ago. Yeah, like in the 90s. I always want to throw right-wing books in the trash when I see them at the library. Yeah, don't. But nothing's stopping you from taking a Post-it note and putting Bible verses that contradict what they're saying in them and sticking them inside so that the people who check them out encounter those. Because you're not destroying the book and you're not harming them. Post-it notes in books that are awful are a great way to go. Just saying. Little subterfuge. Anyone see the group shot of Indiana high school students flashing the Nazi salute? Mm-hmm. Someone referenced Flip Wilson further up in the chat. Yeah, I saw that, and I was like, yeah. So yeah, and again, and I'm gonna take off in like 2 minutes, but I really, honestly, whenever it's a kid in any of these circumstances, in a protest march, anytime if they're under the age of 18, and I know that there's levels of maturity beyond that, that, in some cases we try teens as adults and blah, blah, blah. But I think it is a healthy standard to have as a liberal and a progressive that we look at people under the age of 18 emotionally, in the same way that we do legally, that we agree with that. Because once you stop agreeing with that, you also disagree with all the other protections afforded to people because they are under 18. I've always said that, like, in Florida at one point they were trying to try a child as an adult at 12 years old for murder, and that was a death penalty state. And I was like, one of my ways of pushing back on that was anybody who calls for the death penalty for a 12-year-old is saying they would have sex with a 12-year-old because they believe they can make adult choices. So only a pedophile would support trying a 12-year-old as an adult, because the slippery slope there is they can make adult decisions, and I will take advantage of them making what I consider an adult decision. And I just believe that we have a standard of 18, and we live that way. No secret that children want to belong. Adults exploit children in multiple ways. Exile the bad adults from your organization. Exactly. Thanks, Billy. But it's true. Anybody who argues for a child to be tried as an adult wishes they could do things with an adult. I think that was Willie Gomer who posed that idea. And multiple people have. He's not the first. This goes back to friggin' when I was in high school. They were talking about this. Like, there was, a 12, but I very distinctly remember them being 12 years old. And I was like, most people's brains aren't done cooking until they're 22. They're still immature even up to that point. There's a reason why we send people, yet 18 is, when we send you off to be a soldier. It's because your brain's still malleable, Right, Julie. Yeah, I think even 18 is too young to be an adult. I agree, and there's variance and anything, but how many songs by adults are out there about 16-year-old girls? 3 at least that I know of. Now, granted, the market for those kind of songs is often about, sung from the point of view of 15-year-old boys. Is usually like literally the song Christine 16, which is written from an adult point of view about the girl, was like literally their main market's like 14, 15-year-old boys. So that's an older woman, it gets murky. But what I'm saying is that, here's the thing. I believe in the death penalty for people. I just believe it cannot be administered without making mistakes. I believe, as far as the death penalty goes, certainly not for a child, anyone, who's under the age of 18, period, or who has the mental capacity of a child, at most life imprisonment, period. But you cannot have a death penalty without killing someone who's innocent. It's just not possible. There's no way to be 100% sure, and there's no way to undo it because the person is dead. The number of people who've been let out of jail after being in there for 30 years should be indicative of the fact that if we've made that kind of mistake, we've definitely made that mistake with someone getting killed. It is just not possible, and I don't know anyone who's been a victim of a crime, no matter how much they hate the person that did it, that would say, if you came to them and said, yeah, we can kill this person, we caught them, we know, it's them, red-handed. But to have this system in place where we put them to death, we have to kill 2 other innocent people in the next 10 years. It's just got to happen. It's going to happen, and if we kill him, we kill them too, because we can't just do this once. This is a system. And I don't know anybody who's lost a child or whatever who would go, anyone else deserves to lose a child. I don't care if you kill an innocent person. I want that person dead. Once the state has them, lock them up and block them up. That's it. Hal, it's remarkable how often we not only agree, but we agree on the thought process used to arrive at a particular conclusion. Well, that's because you're very smart, Carl. And I try to be very smart every day of my life. So, obviously we're going to meet in the middle somewhere. Hal, if we can't get the death penalty perfect, then we shouldn't do it at all. Exactly. That's the reason for not having a death penalty. It's not because some people don't deserve it. It's not because some people, like I just watched all the Bundy tapes shows yesterday while I was prepping for the show and going through documents and stuff. And Summer turned it on and left it on and fell asleep. And now I'm like wide awake watching, the Bundy tapes. And this, I would be lying if I didn't say that there's a majority of my soul that would have taken great pride in personally beating that man to death. But that's why we have a society. That's why we maintain. Because to do that, as difficult as it was to convict him, as awful as it was, the process and how crappy he was, he was his own attorney and all that kind of stuff, and he basically torturing witnesses by them being cross-examined by him, and all the stuff that goes with the uncomfortable aspect of our legal system, and the uncomfortable, I forget who said it, but it is better that 10 guilty people go free than one innocent person be punished, certainly applies to the death penalty. And I would have not had the death penalty because who got scooped up in that with him? So what's the name of the Bundy series? I think it's the Bundy tapes. Yeah. I lived in Florida when Bundy was executed. Yeah. Ted. Estimate I heard this 4% of death sentences are imposed on innocent prisoners. That's why I'm generally against it. Yeah. One is too many. The death penalty is a system. As such, it is open to human error. It can't be part of a system that inevitably executes the innocent. Exactly. You don't solve the problem. And besides, most of these people, especially people who are involved in multiple homicides, he, in the last 48 hours before they killed him, he started telling, where people were buried and details of crimes and stuff. But he didn't get all the way through it. He didn't tell everybody that he had murdered. And there's still unsolved murders out there that Ted Bundy committed, and those families don't get closure. And someone else may have gone to jail for that murder, been convicted of it, and then they're sitting in jail right now. Can't be exonerated because he's dead now. Thank you, Julie. Yeah, this is it. In Sweden, the maximum penalty for any crime is 20 years. Yeah, that's stupid. That's ridiculous. Some people deserve to be in jail for the rest of their life. There's no question. It's just, that's absurd. Sweden, you're being dumb. Death penalty also was needed in earlier days to protect society from the worst cases of horrible behavior. That's why the rules on insanity are so strict. That's true. But also, back then, you didn't have supermax prisons where you could keep somebody locked in. Ted Bundy escaped twice. Now you can incarcerate people for life and they can stay in there and you can feed and house them and you have the ability to provide them with medical care, but they're just not going anywhere. We are protecting society from them. We're not enacting revenge. And this idea that that police just have it out for people and that that there's not a genuine reason why there's a lot of prisoners. And by the way, the whole this argument about, and this came up during the the firefighters, that that it's slave labor because we're using people in prison to fight fires and that kind of stuff, is garbage. Because A, it's optional. You don't have to do it. You can just serve your time. If you've got 20 years, do your 20 years. But if you want to get out in 10, you can have good behavior. What's one of the good behaviors? You can actually have a job. And show that you can be productive, or you can do something that is a service needed by the state to prove your worth and your reliability, so that we have a reason to let you out early. Otherwise, just sit in the cell. And by the way, one of the reasons, again, we've talked about this before, one of the reasons why the United States has more people in prison than a lot of other states. One is because of the freedoms we have. There are more bifurcations in the law. The more freedoms you have, the more laws you can break. Because in every freedom, there's 100 little areas. Instead of going, that's just not. You're not allowed a gun in Russia. Period. Like that kind of thing. So any gun you have, you're in jail. So nobody has them. But if you have guns, but you try to sell a sawed-off shotgun on eBay, you're going to jail. So the more freedom you have, the more bifurcated, smaller crimes you will have, and people will go to jail for those things. The other thing is more of our prisoners stay alive. A lot of other countries convict and incarcerate more people than we do, and more of a part of a wider swath of their populace. But those people just die. They just kill them. Oh, thank you. I'm going to get stuck again. You're right. I've overshot the show by a half an hour because it's a great conversation, because you guys are wonderful. Thanks so much. Don't forget to like and subscribe. If you like the show, come see us every Saturday, 9 to 11 Pacific time on WCPT Radio. I do the show, and then I do a post-show afterwards. I'm giving this spiel because people sometimes just watch the post-show, guys. And thank you, chatters. I appreciate you guys. It's always a great conversation, and we will continue to talk about these things until they are solved, which might be forever, but okay. I like you guys enough. That's a good reason. And everybody tweet Johnny Million to be on the show more often. There you go. Anyways, take care of yourselves and take care of somebody else. All right, I'm going to post the post show right there. Upload that. There you go. And then close that down. And then I think that makes it work. And then hopefully it's smoother. Yeah. But you guys are great. Thank you guys so much. Be well, and I'll do. I might stream a little bit from NAM later on, or maybe tomorrow. Does NAM still continue tomorrow? I don't know if I'll get down there. We'll see. I have so much stuff to do before I go to Bellevue. I wasn't supposed to do these dates in Washington, and they just came up, so I've had to crowbar everything I'm doing into 4 days, and it's just nuts, which happens a bunch. But anyways, you guys understand more than anybody. But take care of yourselves and take care of somebody else. I'll see you next time. Bye.